Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 293. We were on a hiatus last week, but we are back in full force. As you can see on camera and behind the camera, there's a live studio audience in full effect as well. So going from no show last week to a full garage. So if you can't see us midway through, that's because there's too much smoke in the air, but we'll find out how that goes. I want to welcome back to the show. We have two wonderful guests. Ryan Newman, Royale Cigar Lounge. I mean, like, just Ryan Newman.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean.
It works.
But check out his shop, Royale Cigar Lounge. And that's on the west side of Columbus. And just a beautiful location. What's the address?
297 Georgesville Road, right across the street from the casino.
That's it. You can gamble a little bit, and then you can go over and have a cigar.
There it is.
And we have longtime supporter, guest, but it's been a long time, I think, since you've been in the garage, especially. Yeah. I don't know when that was, but
you and I did an episode not too long ago. Yeah. Or, I mean, it was a long,
probably, 2 years ago?
Okay, so the last time you and I did an episode together, I know we did that at one point.
Yeah. I know you guys haven't done one of these in a while. Don't forget to speak into the mic. Yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
Golly, yeah, it's had to be close to a year and a half, I want to say.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
The last cigar is what I was trying to think of what we have done.
Were you on? Were you on before, like, since? Because I know Lou and you were on remotely at some point.
Yeah, correct.
I wonder if that was the last time.
Yeah. That was the last time that that I joined virtually.
Yeah.
But the last time that I was on in person, maybe the 1935.
Jeez.
Let me take a look.
It's been a while.
It's been a good long bit. It's been a good long bit.
But welcome back. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
great to be here.
Yeah, I want to thank. Well, one of our sponsors is the company you work for, is Altadis USA. You can see behind us some of the great brands: Monte Cristo, Romeo y Julieta, H. Upmann, Aging Room, among others, including our featured cigar tonight from Altadis USA. This is brand new. It's been actually on shelves, I want to say, at most 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This was announced, I believe, at PCA, which is the Premium Cigar Association. Is that right? The trade show in summer.
Yep.
And this is the Trinidad, which is one of your guys' lines. And this is the Espiritu Series No. 3.
Yes.
Which is a long time coming. We're going to get into that cigar a little bit, because I still remember when the Series No. 1 came out. And you're like, yeah, man, it's going to be a trilogy. And I was like, cool.
2017, baby.
And then I was like, the 2 came out. And they're like, all right, so are we doing a third? Or we're not? Yeah.
Yep.
Finally, we're here. So
That's right.
Really happy to have it. I've smoked it before, and we'll get into that. So thank you, Altadis USA. Thank you, Josh. You've always been kind of a champion behind that sponsorship, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And also, I mean, more recently, Maria and Charlie's been working with us, because you've kind of gone a little bit wider scope as far as your duties here. So he's nationwide. Nationwide. So, and also Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They carry the Trinidad, the 1, 2, and 3 in various sizes. So you can check out Trinidad, as well as a lot of the other Altadis brand names. We carry a lot at them in Columbus, Ohio. So check them out. And then Be a Cigar Company, the gold and silver in stock. The gold is made by Plasencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa Cigars. And you can get those at Tinderbox at Easton, at Royale Cigar Lounge, and at Carfagna. So the 3 locations currently in Columbus are represented here tonight on the podcast.
I think it's safe to say that the Humidor at Carfagna's has more gold Toros than the Tinderbox right now.
If it's more than 0, then yes.
1.
Perfect. I have more.
I've got 1. I've been hoarding it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have 6 in my basement. Maybe
I've got a handful, but
the black market price is a little higher, just so you know. Yeah.
$20.
Yeah. Secondary on those BS Golds. But no, guys, thank you also for the support. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. That's been fantastic for the continued support. There's a $5, $10, and $25 tier. And then you can also do a one-time contribution if you want to, at Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And then also some of the swag, buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. There is a new code for Patreon members. So if you're a Patreon member, hit me up and I will get you the code for a discount on all that. Nate and I both have the Barrelhead logo on the black camo. Great for this time of the year. And then I don't know what shirt you got overalls on, but I've got the kind of. Oh, Lou's got the green limited edition. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. Podcast shirt, and I've got the when the world hands you some BS, light it up. So there's a lot of swag on there, including some 3/4 sleeves. There's some ladies V-neck T-shirts on there as well for the podcast. So check it out, and shipped right to you. They're very, very quick, and the customer service at buyjack.com is fantastic. Let's get down to business here, boys. Josh, how you been, first of all?
Very well,
Let's
man.
drag this intro out here a little bit.
Yeah. It feels good to be back in the garage. Feels good to be back on the podcast. It's been some time coming, man, because I know I've reached out to you several times, and we just haven't been able to work it out time wise. And so I had a little lull in travel, and just came back from the office last week, off of the launch of the new Trinidad Espiritu 3. So we did the national launch last week, and text you extremely last minute, and you said, "Hey, Ryan's going to be on," and so I said, "Hey, if you wouldn't mind, having another one." It's not like we haven't done this before.
I said basically let's plan on it, but I'm going to check with Ryan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And of course, there's no problem.
Yeah,
there.
I don't think Ryan's going to say no.
Nah, man. This is we've done an episode together. It was a great episode.
Mhm.
It was a really, really good episode, and I don't know. I feel like you know, with you doing your thing nationally, and you know, me kind of doing my thing here in Columbus, it brings good viewership. You know what I mean? It's good to have both of us together.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, it's good.
And I looked, Josh, last time you were on was April of last year.
Last year, okay.
Because you had some barrel picks from Nashville Barrel.
Okay.
I wasn't on that
and
one.
we had the Upman Heritage.
Was I there?
Okay. All right.
I hope so.
Me too.
Yeah,
No, I broke
you had a
your-
great episode.
Yeah.
Chapman Heritage.
I broke into
and
your
the-
I broke
Great
into your
one.
garage and stole your laptop.
Perfect.
Yep. I do recall.
Perfect.
So yeah, year and a half ago, huh? Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, that was right about.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are sipping on. I haven't mentioned that yet. Ryan, you brought Knob Creek 12 year.
Yes.
We'll get into that as well. But I think we want to feature first off the Trinidad Espiritu number 3 here. So this, if you want to give us a rundown, and I will say that you guys went all out with the swag that you brought here tonight. So if you guys, as you listen to this, and if you get your local brick and mortar, if they haven't ordered this yet, I would definitely talk to the owner, the buyer, whatever, if they want to talk to their Altadis rep about doing some sort of event, because I know you guys have some event stuff planned for this, right?
Yep.
For the launch.
Yep.
But I will say the swag with the colors and everything else, like I'm using the new lighter, and this is, I assume, probably Lotus. You guys use Lotus
you're
for a lot of
correct.
things.
Yep.
And this has the color scheme on there, basically like with the box you're going to talk about. It's a triple torch and gold punch cutter. It's nice.
Yeah.
Sharp.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Trinidad, right? This was a brand that needed a little bit of loving, right? It needed something, a wonderful brand with rich heritage. And in 2017, the idea started, and then it was brought to light in 2018 with the Espiritu Series 1. And this was a Nicaraguan Puro from AJ Fernandez. Was that first blend that we did, and then you saw the second installment, which was we had it on the podcast, I believe. It was the Brazilian Arapiraca, and Brazilian Arapiraca wrapper on it. Had the Brazilian flag like color scheme to the box is green, as you said. You can still get those cigars at Tinderbox. So the third installment. So this has been a work in progress for the past 2 years. I heard from Raphael, and he was giving me a little bit of a rundown of the blend that he did with AJ, because this the third installment, all 3 have been made at AJ Fernandez, and it continues on that the Espiritu Series 3 is also made at AJ Fernandez, utilizing a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. What's special about this is the fermentation process and the aging process that it went through. So 2 years that this wrapper has been aging before being applied to the cigar. And then a special Habano seed in the filler that was grown in the San Andreas Valley.
Really?
Yep. So Nicaraguan filler binder, one of the seeds being grown in the San Andreas Valley, utilized in the filler.
Okay.
And the third one, as you guys can tell, all sizes are a soft box press.
I was surprised about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just the first two, but I know AJ makes. I don't want to say a soft box press, but I don't know. I think he likes box pressing San Andreas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just across the board.
Look at the New World.
New World.
The first one that was really
Oscuro.
popular was that New World Oscuro, which was that was more of a hard box press.
It was
in comparison, but that was just that was a Nicaraguan pure though. That wasn't San Andreas.
It wasn't.
No,
yeah, it was. But I know he does some stuff for other. I'm not going to mention them right now, but I mean I know some other Mexican San Andreas cigars that he makes for other people.
Yeah.
And I think he likes box pressing that.
Yeah.
Was there a reason that Raphael disclosed? Or is just they just did it?
No. Yeah. So you're right on. Some blends that AJ and many other cigar makers do, they find the flavor profile is better in a box press
With this wrapper?
And
or just in general?
In general.
Okay.
But then you can apply, with this wrapper, and this is one of those blends that they smoked it, they smoked around, they smoked the box press, and the format, it just I can't explain it. I'm not that into it to be able to explain that it smokes differently.
It just translates better.
They usually do. And from my understanding, on a soft box press, maybe not as much the case, but we've talked about on the show before that they typically will take of the blend to make it smoke and press that way. They'll take one of the filler leaves out. So that might be part of it. I don't know if that's what they did here. And that is sometimes why I think box presses have a little easier draw a lot of times. I don't know if you've noticed that. I'm sure you guys have. I don't know if you guys noticed that on the show, but I know that sometimes that will definitely change the flavor profile just from the sheer construction of a blend doing that.
So when they're going to roll it, as Steve said, though, they might leave out a filler leaf, and so it's a little bit more of a loose blend, right? When they're putting it into the press, and into the press, instead of a round press, you have a totally rectangular press with like almost like a silicone insert in it, right? That they're putting in, and then they're laying all of these cigars down, and then putting in the top press that's going to have more in that on top of it, and it's going to be pressed for 30 minutes on both sides, right? And so that's how they get that press.
Have you been to AJ's factory?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that operation someday, because I know it's a large operation.
Yeah.
From my understanding. And for those that don't know, like as far as because sometimes I like to get into this where they think like with press, like how are they doing this? Is it a vacuum machine or something like that? Is it mechanical? From the ones I've seen, that's why I'm curious if like some of your guys' bigger factories that you utilize, not only your own but other like AJ's, if they have progressed onto that, because everything I've ever seen, it's the old school vice.
It's an old school
they
wheel,
just
man.
Stack these molds. They'll get them in there, and there's different sizes as far as the stacks, but I mean, you're talking like several stacks up to however high, and then they have the old school vice with it's just the metal crank on it, and it pushes down, and it just holds all of those molds all together. It's not a one time. We've got one now hanging here, a mold from Josh here. It's not just one at a time. They usually stack
like a dozen
or more.
20 boxes at a time.
Yeah. It's 15 to 25.
Okay.
That they'll stack, and then lightly turn this wheel that presses it down.
Kind of like pressing apples in a bucket to make apple gel.
It's just interesting because people don't always, they hear hand rolled, they hear, it's handmade, but a lot of the process going up to the point of rolling, and then even after that with the mold there, it's very, very, I don't want to say archaic, but it's very traditional type of machinery you're using. There's not a whole lot that goes into it. I mean, on the farming side, I think you have a little bit of advancement in technology they use, but even when we were at the Altadis farm in Connecticut, I mean, I've said the story before, but I mean, they do have where you pelletize the seeds, which is a newer machine.
Correct.
But as far as going out into the field, it's this like, you picture like kind of a big, some like hopper, and then it like kind of filters down to like 4 tricycle looking things that you're sitting on, and then it moves through the field, and that's literally just like kind of, lack of better word, because I'm not that, it just poops a seed right down in there. I mean, it does. I mean, it's more or less, it just like comes out right there, and boom, you're in the. And when I was in Cuba, and I showed that to one of the farms, one of the guys on the farms, and I'm thinking like they probably got those down there, no problem. He's like, "What is it? Like, get me one of those." I'm like, "I can't get you one of those." I thought theirs was like 80 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that this is new technology for Cuba. So it's very, very traditional the way they do a lot of this stuff. Sorry, I just wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
Too. All right, and it's still very manual. Right. You're not pressing a button and pneumatics, right? No, you're going and you're turning it, right? And then you're getting it out and taking the top one off and, pressing it back down again, and then, going to the next. So, I mean, it's very timely. And it just goes back to the passion, right? That, when you appreciate it, when you see it, or take time to think about it, it makes you appreciate it all the more. It really does. This expression in the hand, the feel for me, I like a box press.
Yeah.
I'm privy, to the box press. The 1935, the new Diamante that you guys got to smoke.
Great cigar.
And then. This one, I really appreciate the box press. It just it feels correct in the hand. I think, yeah,
feels correct.
I think a lot of the new school guys enjoy the box press, and some of the older traditional cigar smokers.
I would agree with you on that.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I love box press, especially the smaller size. Love it.
We had that 110 event where another company, they had a cigar where it was both box press and round.
Yeah,
and. Brian, the owner of the Tinderbox, was like, "Yeah, that round one's going to be the first one to go." And the rep's like, "I bet you the box press goes first, because especially at an event where you're passing out a cigar and people have the choice of a round or a box press, there's some sort of perceived extra value with the box press." And sure enough,
you think that's what it is?
I agree with that too.
But people ended up people picked the box press first during that event.
Why is there perceived value? What do you guys think?
It's because it's like that special edition. It costs more. It's more of an added step. At least in the perceived mind, it's an added step to change that blend a little bit.
During the summer, and you get the picture. You're riding on your golf cart, and you have to lay your cigar down on the golf cart, seat. And you forget about it. And it's okay, because you drive off and it's still sitting on your golf seat. It's not rolling off.
Well, I don't know.
I just
if you have a seatbelt on it, maybe. I mean, if you drive off, I'm saying you don't have to where it's rolling while you're swinging. But I mean, I wouldn't drive, from the tee box
perceived value.
No, I think there is a practicality to it. I do know that some people, not only in the hand, but they like the way it smokes as it's in your mouth, honestly, because of the way it just fits. I don't know. I still have a theory that I think that Padron really put box press on the map. Yeah. And that's where I think that some of the perceived value is for cigar smokers, where you have like the Padrones really got, I don't know the timing of this, but the anniversary series and the 1926 series all of a sudden started coming out box press. And it just, I feel there wasn't as much on the market at the time. And I wasn't around when those, I wasn't in the cigar community when those came out initially. But I think that may go into a little bit the perceived value there, that one of the higher rated cigars consistently, those two blends were box pressed. They were individually numbered. There were all this stuff. And it just, I think as you see that on the shelf, it does stand out a little bit.
So it's super interesting that you say that, because
you're full of shit.
No.
You're wrong, and here's why. Go ahead, Josh. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Starting with the Patron, it got me thinking about the rating process, and then I started thinking about the cigar of the year, right? And think if we would go through the past 10 years,
there's a lot of
many number one cigars of the year, or let's just say the top 5. That have, or no, let's even hone it down. The top 3 are box pressed.
Yeah,
there's always one in there.
All the EPCs. of that series.
The EPC.
The three of those, right? You got the Encore was number one. You had the La Historia was a number two. You had the Pledge was number one. All box press.
So I'll go
Melanio.
back. I'll go back pre Melanio, right?
That's what I lost. Cheers.
No, it was the Le Bijou. The My Father Le Bijou
Was the box press
that was
torpedo.
box press,
The Flor de
right?
las Antillas was before that.
How about the Prensado?
2012.
Okay, yeah.
Prensado was 2010.
2010.
Well,
Prensado, yeah.
You had back-to-back years where the number one was not box press because you had the LFD Andalusian Bull,
Yep.
and then the next year was the Don Carlos.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
bullshit anyways.
Yeah,
What,
both
the
of them were.
the-
fucked.
Both
the
you
Eye of
couldn't
the
get
Shark?
it. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Eye of the
they
Shark. Oh, the Eye of the Shark is
That
box
is
press.
box press, by the way. Eye of
It
the Shark.
is.
What's the Eye of the Shark?
It was the Eye of the
Yes, it
Shark.
was. It wasn't the.
And you
Robusto.
had the high rated from you guys, Aging Room,
The Aging Room,
Nicaragua. That was the
Yeah.
number one, right?
Yep.
And then the number two was the number two, the
1935,
1935.
And then Padron's always on that list somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, I went.
Interesting. I think we're on to something.
I-
How about that?
So if you want to be on the top of Cigar Aficionado, which is the publication we're talking about, box press your
Yeah,
cigar.
I remember I'd looked back to like 2010, and there was only 1 year Padron was not in the top 5, and they were number 7, I think, that year. They're always in the top 5.
I like the branding you guys did on this one. You kind of touched on it with the number one of this series. If you guys have seen it, it was kind of although it was an all Nicaraguan medium bodied cigar. And I'm not saying, I don't think the blend was necessarily, because it happens a lot. Altadis does it with a lot of theirs. A lot of other companies will say that it's like a throwback, a tribute to your traditional Cuban.
We would like to say the Caribbean, right?
But I think
Caribbean.
the packaging, if I'm not mistaken, was very like aimed towards Cuba. Like that was the whole thing, because you're kind of revitalizing the Trinidad brand, which is an old Cuban brand, right, and still is around. But you had the front fender of the car on that one.
Yeah.
It was really cool marketing. And then when you got to the second one, where it was focused on Brazil, you had
More green.
It was the green and
More
blue.
Yep.
I forget what was on there though.
And yellow. It was just kind of that.
It's like that kind of pattern right here, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you guys kind of focus towards that. And now with this one, you focus on Mexico, and I like it. I wish I was around the creative process on when they're like, all right, so how do we make it look Mexico? And it's like, well, put cactus on there. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. And I'm looking at this box and the marketing behind it and everything like that. And I'm just like, it's a luchador mask. yeah, that's a luchador mask. I like it. I wish if I imagine these people like sitting around, like if it's Raphael, or I assume Raphael's obviously heading this thing, but I'm just wondering if it's kind of like, all right, what do we put on here? Everyone just write down, and we're gonna throw them up on the board. All right, we're gonna throw them up on the board. Tequila? No, not tequila. We're not gonna do tequila. It's just like I just would love to be around it because it actually works when it's all done. I just am so curious what you guys picked to put on these boxes and just make it work somehow, because it is. You got different colors, all of your accessories, like this lighter's got the color scheme.
On the band, there is.
There's cactus right there.
And
Very
you
nice.
I
have
think
like
is that an agave plant?
you have a cactus and you have like an Aztec temple.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah, the
right there.
Aztec, yep.
That's
yep.
really nice.
Yeah, so it's
Little
kind of
agave
subtle.
plant there, paying tribute, right? And we actually did. We teamed up with a tequila company for the
Which one?
release. I might screw this up, so don't hold me to this. It's Condago.
Condado? Like the taco place?
No, not
Place is good.
Condado.
This place is great.
Contigo, Condago. Contigo.
It sounds
I don't know,
like
I might have
you're
screwed up.
saying it right.
Yep,
all
yep,
of them.
yep.
All of those are right.
Yes, there you go.
But
And we teamed up and did a release, and so they were at our release party, and the tequila we used was from there. I'm just gonna go with Contigo.
Yeah.
Condago.
Condega is a region in Nicaragua, so I feel like that's not it.
Not
That's not it.
Condago.
We can kind of process elimination.
I
there.
almost picked a bottle of Classo Azul for this too.
Dude, come on.
I like Classo Azul.
Yeah, I mean-
How did that fitting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is the event? So again, I mean, you guys did this with the Espiritu number one, and I mentioned this when we talked on the phone the other day that you guys had done that. You did not do this type of an event for the number two.
Correct.
That might have been a timing thing also, because of that was around 2020, 2021,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
it was yeah.
launched during unsure times of gatherings and stuff like that. So it makes sense
Yep.
not to factor that into the marketing. But what if a brick and mortar wants to do something like this, if you guys listening at home or wherever you're at, if you're listening and you want to do something like this and you want to get the cigar in there are some cool event packages that you guys are doing. What does it all involve?
Yeah. So, get with your rep and they'll go over all the different event swag that you're going to get, opportunity for ashtrays and lighters, gift with purchases, all around. And what will probably encompass is all three of the series, right? And the latest thing, I have not got to do it. I just ordered and just received. So the Robusto size in this Series 3, I was told smokes with the best balance.
Okay.
That's the size we did not get.
And so I have one of each of the Robustos, and I'm going to do a side-by-side tasting, right?
Of all three?
Of all three.
Okay.
Right. And sit down and smoke all three. The
Smoke
Nika
like a
Puro,
quarter inch.
Yep. And try this. That would be in a great event series. It would probably be limited ticket numbers for that. And then, just going on into gift with purchases and the different swag, incredible swag, with this. But again, let's not get too far away. The important thing is the blend, right? And the blends are just absolutely incredible, right? I mean, this is truly put Trinidad back on the map.
I would agree with that.
And AJ is just doing a phenomenal job with Raphael, blending these cigars and coming out with these cigars as a incredible partner of ours in Nicaragua.
Yeah, this is Ryan, what do you think of this? This is your first time smoking it, first of all.
So I like, yes, it is my first time smoking it. I like it. Here's my hesitation.
Okay.
It's a great cigar. There's a lot of balance to it. There's a lot of flavors that I like when I'm in the mood for this type of profile. When I'm in for that darker, richer, kind of fuller flavor, it has a nice, almost, it's going to sound funny, but on the retrohale, it has almost like a nice perfumey sweetness. Mm-hmm. It's kind of floral, if you will.
Right.
But before I smoked this, I knew exactly what I was getting into.
Why?
Because it's a typical, to me, it's a typical AJ blend. It's a great cigar. It's a very, very good cigar. There's a lot of balance to it. But I think there's only so much reinventing the wheel you can do when you're using a Mexican-grown San Andreas wrapper with Nicaraguan fillers and binders, all from AJ's fields. He uses it quite a bit.
He does.
I think it's a great cigar, but there's only so much reinventing the wheel, and it's not like it's anything I wasn't expecting. You expect top-tier quality from AJ. He's been doing this, a time or two.
Oh yeah.
But it's something that when I smoke it, before I even lit it up, I knew exactly what I was going to get myself into. And it hasn't disappointed, but it hasn't surprised me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's good and bad to that, right? I mean, if you thought you were getting something and it doesn't smoke anything like an AJ, San Andreas wrapper, Nicaraguan filler binder, you wouldn't know what to think of it, right?
Right.
That's not why. If you see that on paper, you're like, I like those blends. I like that on paper. I like that stuff from AJ. So it'll be tweaked a little bit, but you're right. I mean, I agree with you.
If anybody likes any AJ Fernandez product, this is a great one to try. It's phenomenal.
It's interesting you say that because with the series number 1, all Nicaraguan AJ blend, Altadis, along with AJ and other companies, but you guys at one point, really, when you started working with AJ, you had some Nicaraguan Puro medium-bodied cigars all across the portfolio.
Yep.
And I had a similar type of thought on that. The Espiritu number 1, though, I think did smoke better than some of the other blends that you guys had done. And it surprised me because one of those was Monte Cristo Nicaragua series is an AJ blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Espada, too, correct?
No,
that's
Placencia.
Yeah. Okay.
But you guys did
says
that.
It right on the inside box.
You had there's a Romeo, I think, too. AJ. Oh, you have the Upman,
The
all
Connecticut
Nicaragua. Or that's not all Nicaragua.
Connecticut Nicaragua's AJ.
That's plus Sensia.
That blue label H. Upman's on Nicaragua.
It's the wrapper's not. It's a
Habano, Ecuador.
The are you talking about the
The light
Reserve
blue.
Real Nicaragua?
No, the H. Upman, the blue label.
Oh, yeah.
It's Habano, Ecuador?
Sumatran, Ecuador,
Yeah.
and Sumatran.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is that they're coming out, and I was like, oh yeah, it's another AJ blend. So all Nicaragua. So I kind of feel where you're coming from it, and I kind of agree that it does. I think there's some differences there, but I mean, yeah, I don't think if you've smoked other AJ products that have a similar blend, you're going to be like necessarily like blown away, like, oh my god, this is so different than anything else he's ever done.
Right.
But it does smoke nice, and I get what you're saying on the retro hail.
Mm-hmm.
But I just did a retro hail, big one through my nose, and I still get some pepper to it.
Do you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I did. I mean, it was a lot. It wasn't just like a hint of retro hail.
That,
It was
that
like
could be
the whole thing.
And maybe it's with what we're pairing, and we'll get into that later. But I don't get a whole lot of that pepper. I get a little bit of a spice. It's a sweeter spice, but I don't.
It does
get a
have
whole,
some sweetness, which surprises me.
To me, it's weird. It's almost like a perfumey floral sweetness that I get on my retro hail.
No, and so I think that's from the age.
Could be.
Right. That you get, because I literally in the car on the way up when I did the quick snap for Instagram, I was smelling the wrapper, and it had that florally sweetness to it, right? That I usually get from a lot of lighter, Connecticut's, Ecuadorian Connecticut. You get from a lot of it, some of the more aged ones, but this one had that florally sweetness that you're talking about, Ryan, to it. It was quite interesting. But this, I think, the smoothness of the cigar, how well balanced it is, I believe is from that age.
Probably.
Yeah. Because I don't get a lot of spice. Now I haven't had a big retro hail, and that's going back to what I might have talked about when I've been in the garage before about the flavor enhancer and how I get the flavor. I'm not big on retro hailing because it gums up kind of the sensors.
Sure. Everyone's different.
It just I like to do it a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I struggled not to retro hail.
Yeah, nowadays.
But I'm also like kind of stuffed up too, so that would make sense. Nate, what do you think of this blend?
I like it. I have smoked a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
I smoked one at the shop, and then I was like, "Hey, we only got a couple boxes of that, so maybe don't." And I was like, "Well, I'm already smoking one, so."
Yeah, there it went.
No, I do like it. One question I had that you kind of touched on, Josh. What is it? Is it just the 2-year aging process that makes the wrapper different, or is there something done in that time period, kind of like what you did with the Upman 175th?
Yeah.
Like that was a different fermentation process.
You're correct.
Is there something else going on, or is it just the 2-year age?
No, just the 2-year age, double fermentation process in that 2-year age, right? Which refines it a little bit, which I believe gives way to that sweetness, that you get from a Mexican San Andreas. But I'm privy to Mexican San Andreas.
Well, I think that aging process, because you guys do that, like this is probably one of the smoothest Mexican San Andreas wrap cigars I've had. So it makes sense that you guys are aging it that long, like why this cigar is smooth. Because, typically if I smoke a cigar with that kind of wrapper on it, I'm expecting something that's got a little bit more dryness than what this one does. And then also a bite to it, a little harshness to it, a little bitterness to it. And I don't get that with this. And so I wanted to see if that was attributed to that 2-year aging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we talked about, Nate, you and I, with the San Andreas and Nicaraguan combo there. When they first started doing and utilizing San Andreas, just the industry in general, I feel like bigger and more prevalent. That was it. There's a little bit of bitterness there. Dry out a little bit. There was a little bit of that bite to it. And I think, with the working with blends and what tobaccos, I guess, to use as the filler, maybe the wrapper leaf, but I think initially some of the San Andreas cigars were very different. I mean, even going back to
the Ortega days.
Te Amo initially back in the day. I mean, there was definitely like this very different characteristic to it that not everyone liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I feel like you keep saying the word balance. And I'd say for those that haven't tried this yet, if you like San Andreas wrapper with Nicaraguan, to Ryan's point, I think you're going to like this cigar. It may not have that punchiness to it that you might like if you like a little bit of that bite, because it's actually toned down and the balance is there. And for those that don't like San Andreas, but you like some Maduros, I don't want to say like some broadleaf blends, some like dark Nicaraguan, like Oscuro blend, with the wrapper leaf. I think, and if you like Nicaraguan tobacco, that's definitely still carrying, I think, this cigar. A lot of people will, I think, debate what gives it the most flavor. I think every ingredient in the recipe, just like anything else, impacts the blend. You have people that say like the wrapper leaf is the vast majority comes from the wrapper leaf. And I'm like, I think a lot of it does, but I mean, when people start rattling off percentages of what the wrapper, what the binder, it's like, no, I don't think it works like that, especially if you're using some of the lower, like the Viso, and like if you have more Seco in the filler, that's going to give you more flavor. It just does.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to talk to Rafael, because I don't think they disclosed it, but how much Ligero is in here?
Not a whole lot, I would imagine.
I think there's
maybe one
or two leaf in the filler. Do they have that information? Is that disclosed?
No.
Yeah. So I think that also they might be using a little bit of the like more Seco, just that giving it more flavor and not really just punching you with just like a Ligero, like, oh, it's a dark San Andreas and we're gonna give you like a lot of Ligero, a lot of power on this one. And it's like, no, we're not going down that because the series in general. The number one, it's all Nicaraguan. It's medium body, straight medium body for me.
Yep.
Then you came out with that Brazil blend, and it's just like that Brazilian blend. It's got spice. It's got some of that stuff I think of that I want from that kind of a blend, because there's Brazilian wrapper, Brazilian filler with Nicaraguan, and you already have, I think, a little bit of kick on the number two.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So what do you do with the number three? You don't just go with different countries, in my opinion. You get, okay, where I feel like this lands between those two.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Yep.
And I think that was intentional with what you're talking about with the long process on the wrapper. But I would love to know what the filler combo is on this. You said there's that one seed, the Nicaraguan Habano seed grown in Mexico.
Yeah, in the San Andreas Valley. Yep. Which
is unique, which might also bring some different flavor to it. But yeah, that's kind of the way I look at this, because people always will kind of look at a line like this, the Trinidad Espiritu line, and for the retail side of it, for the three of us, and then from the manufacturer side, how often would you say it is the majority or the minority of the time that someone will say, when you come out with like a second one or third one, you're like, I like the number one better?
Oh,
and you're like, well, it's a totally different cigar. Okay, like you're not supposed to compare the two.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because one of our reps, the Series 1, it's his favorite cigar. Mm-hmm. The Trinidad Series 1, the Nica Puro. I mean, it was his go-to cigar. He tried the number 2 and said, hey, listen, this is good, but I love the Series 1, right? You know, and that was, again, his wake up in the morning go-to cigar, because that's how he started his day, right?
Yeah.
A lot of pepper to it, right, and such. And I mean, this one, the third installment, it's not meant to be like its predecessors, right? It has its touch points, and I encourage you, like Steve said, if you like San Andreas, try this. Right. If you don't like San Andreas,
try it.
Try it. Give it a try.
This is a blend that you would give to any of your guys walking into a shop that just maybe they don't know a whole lot, right? And their go-to is, I like Maduros.
Yeah.
Like, okay, can you give me a little more than that? Well, I just like darker cigars.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is one that I would recommend for someone like that, because it's hard not to enjoy the flavors that this gives you.
Yeah.
It has more balance than I think most San Andreas blends, for sure.
Yeah.
But again, for people that know AJ and know his product, it doesn't surprise you what this delivers, in my opinion. But for people that, when they give you, I smoke darker cigars, or I like, I like Maduros, this is a good one to go to. It's a safe bet. It's a safe bet that they're going to enjoy that flavor, because it's hard not to like.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've smoked a long time and you've determined that you like very mild Dominican puros,
This ain't
probably not for you.
Yeah.
Probably not for you.
Well,
You know?
maybe though, because it's not terribly strong. It's medium to me.
No, I know. I'm just saying the
But-
flavor profile is
Right,
way
definitely
off.
correct. It's way off.
But yeah, it is something to try.
I shot a message to Rob real quick and see if he
About the-
responds with
The filler.
with the filler and asking him if there's any Lajero in it.
He's like, what cigar nerd is asking about that?
Who is this Josh Bentley character?
No. Bourbon BS podcast. Why are you doing that again? We sponsor him. Oh, all right. All right. What are we drinking here? Knob Creek.
Knob Creek 12 here.
Yeah.
100 proof.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I like it. It's so I will say with the flavor of the cigar, I like the way they go together.
I did too.
And I only took one sip of this bottle before lighting up the cigar, so it's tough to give a real kind of breakdown of it. But I am getting. Is there a finish on this or no? Like, there's no finishing on it.
No.
So
12
Nate,
years.
do you have the rundown?
I do, but
Well-
let Steve go
Oh.
first.
so it's got a little bit, and it might be coming from like the contrast of the cigar. I've got a little bit of spice on it, not much heat, but I've got a little bit of spice. I wouldn't say necessarily a lot of cinnamon from it, but I'm getting a little bit of, I don't know, some of the, like a hint of mint.
Really?
Along with,
All right.
some of the classic ones. I'm getting a little bit of brown sugar
Yeah.
from it. Just a little bit of vanilla.
Yeah.
Not a ton. I think brown sugar is definitely there. There's a little bit of the kind of again, I think classic flavors that you might get from a lot of bourbons is the brown sugar combined with like a molasses type of a flavor profile. Obviously a little oaky, which I hate saying that because of bourbon being in oak barrels. Like, I mean, you're like, no shit. But a little bit of that caramelized type of that brown sugar flavor profile. And I say the mint, it's not like minty, like, like peppermint or something like that.
Talk about those candies that you get, those chocolate candies that, what are those called? I used to get them at
York?
Olive Garden. Yeah. No.
Andy's mint.
Yeah. Andy's
Get
mint.
those. I miss the days
Those
where
are
the
good.
hotel would put them on your pillow.
Those are good. I like
I mean,
those.
come on. Like, why
I
do
don't
we
like
get away
Yorks.
from that?
I like
Do
Andy's.
you think it stained the sheets? Like someone would forget and it like
It
lay
stains
down
some
on it
No, it
after a
stains
while,
some pockets.
and then they're like sweating.
No,
and then
it's,
like the chocolate is like now it's on your ear.
No,
and
it's
then in
because
there. They
too
have
many people-
complaints, probably.
no, they put them in the pocket and you forget about them because
That's
they're so
gonna ruin
thin.
a good pair of pants.
Yeah. I've lost probably a couple pair of pants.
I feel like you did it more than once.
Yeah, I probably
So-
have. Definitely got stained on my hands.
So you're the
for sure.
reason.
Yeah.
People
I mean,
like
I
you.
I never complained.
You people.
Yeah. I mean, someone like me complained. I never complained.
What does anyone else think about this besides me? Sorry about the.
I'm with you on it. I think it's got a nice subtle spice. To me, it's more like that nutmeg, and I get a little cinnamon from it.
Mm-hmm.
I do get the classic vanillas and the classic, oak, and if you want to call it that, but I get a nice subtle sweetness to it, and I think it's more of like that caramelized kind of hazelnut, if you will. It's just more nut spices and kind of, I don't know. I like it though. I think it pairs really well with this cigar because although the flavors are there, they're not clashing. They balance really well together.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, they balance really well together.
By itself, I don't think the Knob Creek 12 has an abundance of sweetness to it because I think 12 years in the barrel kind of it doesn't provide a whole lot of sweetness. I think part of that could be some of the other stuff that's in the mash bill. But I think with this cigar, going cigar and then to the whiskey, like it brings out a caramel note that I don't get by itself on this bottle.
It's like a salted caramel almost.
But the other thing that's interesting, I mean, you guys keep saying oaky, like it's 12 years. Usually once you get past 8 or 10 years in a barrel, oak becomes a pretty dominant flavor. And this has a lot of it, but not as much as what you would expect for a 12-year
Sure.
bottle. Because I've had some stuff that's 12 years or even younger, and it almost tastes like you got to like you're picking toothpicks out of your mouth. It's just so oaky on the palate.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the cigar. This is a little bit more balanced. It's got a little spice. It's got a little sweetness, and it's
I think the 100 proof is perfect. I don't think if you went higher on the proof, it would lose that balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because Knob Creek does do like their staple is a 9-year at 100 proof. Then they also have a 9-year that's at 120.
Is that the single barrel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the single barrel's at 120. So I think with this one doing 12, cutting it down to 100 still, it's not trying to blow out your palate with that heat, that some people search for with those barrel proofs or stuff like that. It's like, no, we're going to take our regular 9-year, age it a little bit longer, but still put it at the exact same proof, because then it's a better testament if you're doing both of them side by side. What does that extra 3 years in the barrel do?
Sure.
Drink the 9-year, drink the 12-year side by side. Like, how does that extra 3 years impact the flavor of it? Because it's the exact same proof, so you're taking a variable away.
I think for the flavor that I get from this 12-year and the fact that it's aged for 12 years for the price point of the bottle, I think it's a really good buy.
What is the price point?
$69.
Yeah, State of Ohio is a $70 bottle.
Yeah, I think that's.
I mean, for a 12-year anything, right? I mean,
sure.
You see some of these, like Willet, for example. I'm not just saying it, but they've got some lower years that are just
most do, right? Most do.
What's their 4
No,
years?
I'm saying most bourbons on the market. You're not touching 10 years. You're not touching more than 4 really a lot of times. And if you do, it's kind of a big deal. I think Knob Creek you said the kind of their base product, if you will, is a 9-year, and that's coming in at what, Nate? 50? 40, 50?
30, 40 bucks, 40 bucks.
It's I feel, and I think with all the blow up of the bourbon world, like Knob Creek kind of was, I feel like, on bar shelves earlier than the bourbon boom. And I feel like it kind of gets lost in the mix because it is a $30-some bottle and it's 9 years. You're like, wait, think about what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And this being 12 years under $100. I mean, right now you're paying north of $100 for locally distilled stuff everywhere.
That's what
you're paying north of $100 for something that may be
5 years,
5 years. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
so it just, you kind of look at this stuff and you wonder, why is it? I feel like Knob Creek, a lot of bourbon people, they do like it. You know what I mean? Like it's something that gets some attention still, but it's definitely dwarfed by, the hotter names, right?
Well,
because if someone's like, hey, I'm looking for a gift for someone, they're really into bourbon. They I think we've advanced a little bit beyond it, but like they want Blanton's, they want Buffalo Trace products, they want this, and it's like, I don't know, like for $70, there's a hell of a bottle. It's a 12-year Knob Creek, and it doesn't come up. I feel like, I don't know. Do you guys agree? Disagree? Like,
I agree, but my thing is, like, how do you justify for companies like Knob Creek that are able to offer a 12-year aged product for that price point? It's tough to go with anything, like it's for me.
Also remember whose portfolio this is, like which company owns Knob Creek.
Is it Beam?
Jim Beam.
Yeah, Beam Centauri.
And Jim Beam. So they've got a ton of shit. They've got a lot. So they can sit there and, I mean, they've got the resources and the money to sit there and sit on a barrel for 12 years and only charge $70 for this bottle, because they are cutting it down to 100. Now, you take that same barrel and age it 6 more years, you get the Knob Creek 18, which is also at 100 proof. It's $100 more than this.
Interesting.
But I've had that bottle. I had that bottle last Christmas.
The Knob Creek 18, the reason why people fawn over that so much more than the 12 is, especially here in Ohio, it's the secondary.
Yeah, it's a secondary.
It's such a limited production, very limited release. It's one of those that people wait in line for, and it's one of the first ones gone. This at Carfagna's, we got 7 cases of this, and when I was at the store yesterday, I put another case out, and I think we still had 3 more in the back.
But having the Knob Creek 18 and the 15 and the 12 is my favorite for the money, for the price, for what you get. I think anytime you're offering, any company, any of these major players are offering an 18-year age statement, you're gonna have your enthusiasts. They're gonna wait in line for that. You know what I mean? Because there's There's perceived value there.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving up the cost in the secondary market is that perceived value. I think.
I would agree with that.
And that's just one of those things.
It's also the availability of it. Like I said, the Knob Creek 18, they don't do a whole lot of it. So if that comes in, like that's gone in a heartbeat. This kind of sits there. We also had this past weekend, we had Elijah Craig 18.
Oh, did you really?
We had that, and that was, I think, the third case or the third product that sold out was the 18-year Elijah Craig.
Yeah.
I think we had.
What did that go for?
I think that's like 150. I'll look it up on ohlq.com.
Shout out. What are we drinking? What's the mash bill? Do you have that?
I do.
Yeah. What are we drinking?
So anyone want to take a guess first? Corn. Let's start with corn.
So I'd say more than 50%.
Oh.
Am I right?
Shocker
there. All right, I'm right. Go ahead, Ryan. You build off of that.
52.
I'm not saying
Higher, lower.
We're not.
We're
doing
Price
it.
is
We're not
right
playing-
here.
Price is right. God damn it.
Jesus. I'll take a stab. I'm thinking there's some rye in there. Yes. No?
Yeah, I think so
Yes.
too.
So it's corn, rye, and barley. There's
Yeah.
no wheat in this.
Okay. I didn't think so.
That makes sense.
I think I'm gonna go low here, but I'd say mid 60s on the corn. I don't know. I think it drinks a little bit like a higher rye. So let's say, I'm going to do the math wrong.
This might take a while. Steve's going to do math in his head.
It's 132%. How'd you get that?
I'm going to say
they
5
went
on the
extra.
rye. 5 to 10.
Only
on the rye.
5?
5 to 10 on the rye.
I'm pushing 10. So I'll say 10 rye.
Wait, so you said 65 corn, 10?
No, I'm saying now 10 rye. So I'd say 70. No, that doesn't add up. Shit.
70, 10, 20. That adds up.
20 barley?
Yeah.
No. I'll do 70 corn. I'll do 15 rye. I don't like
Lower.
that either.
No, lower.
I don't know.
10 rye. 10
Someone
rye.
else go. Jesus.
70, 10, 20.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
I like that.
Man, I'm gonna just put this out
Real
there.
good?
Yeah, I feel good.
Real
good. 65 corn. I'm gonna say 5% barley. So that would be really high.
That'd be 30% rye.
30% rye. I know that's wrong. But
See, once you start talking about it, you're like, wait,
Yeah.
no, that's not how.
75 corn. 15 rye. Leaving, what is it, 10? Right?
10% barley.
10 barley.
All right, you're really close there, Steve.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Really close.
You built off mine.
And I think that's one of the things. I think it's one of the reasons why this is a fairly well balanced. It is 10% malted barley, which is higher than what we see in a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
It's only 13% rye.
Okay.
So this is a low rye mash. It's 77
close.
corn.
I did.
You
I
were real
really
close.
zeroed in there.
Yeah. So because that 12 years though, that's where you start getting a little bit more of that oak flavor in it. Having that 10% malted barley though, that kind of balances out a little bit of that sweetness and gives you more of that nuttiness that you
Mhm.
get in it that Ryan was talking about earlier.
Josh, what do you think?
I think that there's a lot of parallels that you guys have been talking about. I get a lot of the caramelized sugars that's really prevalent. I wish I would have taken a sip before I lit up the cigar. I did not do that. So I'm getting a lot of those caramelized sugars that are really prevalent up front. The spice is an afterthought to me.
Mhm.
With the cigar, it's barely there on the finish to me. The vanillas are there, the caramel is there, that woody flavor is there. Going along with what you guys said, I think it's extremely well. I'll use the same word that I used with the cigar. It's extremely well balanced. I think that the pairing is a great pairing, and I didn't know what it was going to be because I haven't paired too much with this cigar. I mean, this is only I want to say third cigar that I've had. It's a great choice.
And I think Josh, you and Steve were both kind of dancing around some of the same flavor notes as something I had looked up. So this one says the extreme time in the barrels is absolutely noticed right away on the palate. You definitely get that oak. Rich oak combined with a hint of leather pops. Then searching deeper, and this is where Steve hit it right on, are sweeter touches of vanilla. You had mentioned just a touch of vanilla earlier, Steve, when you were talking about you were saying just a little bit of vanilla.
North of 290 episodes. I'm starting to get it.
Yep.
Pretty proud of myself.
And marshmallow sprinkled with white pepper. That's that soft spice that you were talking about earlier, Steve.
That's right. The marshmallow, I feel like they left out that it's a little like, like a
roasted
over the fire. Yeah.
Like, are we talking? Yeah,
not black,
roasted, not torched.
Yeah, no, I think it's just when it starts getting brown, like a little bit of bubbly. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, but I like to leave mine in there. I
feel like you just did that. Like you.
I like
that's
mine, I like mine toasted,
taste.
not charred.
No, I like mine charred.
I think it's an
gotta
acquired taste on the charred marshmallows because as a child you just want to just keep it in there. You know what I mean? You probably just like.
Do you think that's
why absolutely? Yeah, you held it in the fire most likely. I'm not trying to get in your head too much, but
no, that's like a guy thing. We've talked about that. That's a guy thing. Just
you hold it in there and you're like, it's done. You're like, no, I'm gonna do it, and then it's all of a sudden it's just.
Then it's
dead.
No, it's a weapon.
It's dead, and then you bite into it, and like your parents or someone else is like,
so
"See, it doesn't taste good." You're like, no, it tastes really good, and then you acquire that because you want to be right as a kid. I'm telling you, I think that
toast the mallow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're not alone. I'm not saying it's just you. I feel like that happens though as a child.
Yeah, I feel like we're digging
too far in. Yeah,
you're right, but you got to char it.
And you won't admit that when you just toast it. It actually tastes better, but it's that fine line. You have to have a little crisp to it.
What you got to do is you got to do that nice toasting. You got to really just get a nice toasting, and then at the end of it, you just got to, you got to get that blackened. You got to get that blackened.
You're searing your marshmallow
at the end of it. You know what I mean? Because it's not like you don't want to. It's a slow process.
Oh.
You don't just want to do it all at once because then you're not really cooking the inside.
Just got a great comment from someone watching us. Because Steve, you'll remember who said this. I'm not going to call the person out, but they went.
I'll see it.
They said white pepper. Isn't that just salt?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We actually had someone who was in the garage one time, and we mentioned white pepper, and they go, "Isn't that salt?"
Yeah, it's just white.
Bless their heart.
All right. I want to ask Josh before we get into the ratings here.
Yeah.
I feel like as the time I've known you, your flavor profile, like a lot of people, has changed what you prefer.
Oh yeah.
Especially with when you released the Monte Cristo anniversary, and I think that's a full flavor, definitely pushing full body.
Yeah.
Which I don't recall that being your go-to type of profile for the longest time.
Right.
When I think I really got to know you out of the Trinidad series, I feel like that number one was like right in your wheelhouse. But now knowing that you really do like the 1935 anniversary for Monte Cristo, is this up your kind of preferred flavor profile where you're at now in your smoking journey, or is this not going to be a go-to?
No,
and that's not. It's not saying it's a bad cigar. I could probably ask this off air.
Yeah, it's a great question. Where I'm at, it's totally circumstantial.
Okay.
It really is, right? I had some guy come up to me at an event that I was at, and what's your favorite cigar? And
always that question,
right?
Yeah.
And
you always get that as a retailer too.
My answer was the cigar that I'm smoking.
Yeah,
the cigar that I'm smoking at the moment is my favorite cigar,
or a free one,
and
gifted cigar.
Yeah. To all the consumers out there, it's the free one. But no, the truly, because it's totally circumstantial. It's what I've had to eat.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
What I'm drinking at the time, what I'm pairing it with, right. And so it's always circumstantial. This in the moment, right? It's a perfect cigar, right? That 1935. I would never wake up first thing in the morning and light up a Monte Cristo 1935 anniversary. More than likely,
not if you knew you were going to be smoking other stuff throughout the day.
I'm not going to wake up and light up a Trinidad Espiritu number 3, but first thing in the morning either. But yeah, once I get on through my day and I'm enjoying a choice beverage, then I'm going to consider that, right? And I think that out of all of the series, that right now that the number 3 and the flavor profile that I get, that it's probably my favorite of the 3.
Yeah,
really,
this is the best one out of all the 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think it's even close. I think this is the best one.
Right on, Lou. Right on.
Interesting. All right. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because it does change over time, and people tend to forget that.
It does. Yeah.
All right. So this is where at the end of part 1, and we round this out. We rate the whiskey, which is the Knob Creek 12-year, the cigar, which is the Trinidad Espiritu number 3, series number 3, and then the pairing. So, Ryan, 10's the best.
Okay, 10's the best.
So the whiskey.
I'm going to give the whiskey an 8.5. It hits a lot of the flavors that I like. I typically like to stay around that 100 proof range too. I think that's perfect for what I typically drink. Nothing wrong with something a little bit higher, but for my everyday, if I'm going to pick something up, I think 100 proof is perfect for me. The one thing that I don't like, or that it's not that I don't like it. The one thing that is missing for me is that real thick kind of like that oily, that viscosity kind of texture.
The color's there.
Yeah, the color's there, but you're not getting
that
as far as the texture.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I do like a little bit more of when I'm finding, a bottle that I like.
You can see that on the glass too.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to interrupt you too much.
Yeah, but you're right.
Not a whole lot. There
are
not
a whole lot of legs.
It doesn't hang around a lot.
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't hang like the single barrel 120 does.
No, correct. So that's why I'm going to give it an 8.5. I love the flavor of it. The cigar, it smokes really, really well. I'm going to preface it with that. I think if I'm in the mood for a San Andreas type flavor, this is there's 2 of them that I normally come to mind. This would kind of knock that one of them out of the that running, but I normally go with either an Oliva V Melano Maduro if I want San Andreas, or I will go with the Casa Fernandez Aganorsa leaf Maduro with that San Andreas wrapper leaf.
No, Aganorsa leaf, yeah.
Yeah. But that Casa Fernandez is what I would do.
Okay.
This to me would supplement one of those for if I'm looking for that flavor profile type. As far as quality, I'm going to give it. So I want to say it's a 9 without my rating of 7.5 for lack of. It just doesn't. To me, it's predictable. It was predictable. So I'm going to give it an 8.5. I'm going to give the cigar an 8.5 because I knew what I was expecting when I lit this up. It has not surprised me at all. Not saying that's a bad thing, because for guys that haven't smoked it yet, it's definitely one to try because it's a very enjoyable cigar. But for me, before I lit it up, I just kind of predicted what I was going to get with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Well,
I think it's a great cigar.
Well, and I think at this point, with all 4 of us, as long as we've all been in the game, as many cigars as we smoke in the industry, it's hard to, I think, surprise you with now, like I had a cigar earlier today I did not post a picture of, but before I lit it up and just doing a dry draw on the cigar or a cold draw, it tasted like bug spray.
What?
It did.
Like a nice bug spray?
Is there such a thing?
Sure.
Nice citronella.
Yeah,
right,
No, not even citronella.
So
No, just
have a nice scent.
Just the taste I got just off the wrapper. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. Flavor profile, actually smoking the cigar was fine. But I was worried when I did a cold draw on that cigar. I was like, oh, this is going to be
A lot
terrible.
of chemicals in that.
But I think with the overall pairing though, I'm gonna give it a 9. because I think these
Okay.
two really complement each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Both phenomenal products on their own, but together, I think they bring out even more of each other.
Sure.
So I'm gonna give the pairing a 9.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah. Starting off with the Knob Creek, great overall sip. The caramelized notes that I said, the caramel is there. Just enjoyable overall. Ryan, yeah, I think that was really good. Right? It's just it's lacking, right? And I don't know if it's that 100 proof, right? It might be that 100
Could
proof,
be.
right? Because I mean, we're also used to these higher proof sips now that we're scorch your palate sometimes, right? And give that uber Kentucky hug. It doesn't do that. So I'm at an 8.5. Right. I think it's a very solid. I mean, the price point, you take that into effect. I mean, you can't beat that for a 12-year.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean,
Sure.
What other 12-year, right? I mean, not to get back into it, but I don't know of another 12-year that's under $100.
No.
So yeah, 8.5 on that. The cigar, phenomenal for where I'm sitting. I didn't have any preconceived notions going into this. I smoked the Lancero, was the last one.
How was that?
Fumidor, as you call it.
Interesting, right? Because it's a box press Lancero
Of this blend?
right? I have it in the box right here. You can,
Damn.
you can definitely have one. And then before that, I had the Toro. So this is the third cigar that I've smoked. And yeah, just an absolute pleasure. I'll get into the pairing here in a second, but I'm gonna go with a 9 for the cigar. Very enjoyable. The sweet notes, whether that was brought out from the Knob Creek or just the sweet notes from the aged Mexican San Andreas. The spice content. It's a very subtle spice, if any, that you get out of it. A lot of coffee notes, a little bit of a dark cocoa out of it. So I give this one a 9. The pairing together, I think, was a 9.5. I was very surprised, by the pairing and not knowing what the proof was going to do, because the strength of the cigar, I think, it isn't there, and that's a plus to me.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
I'm not one for an incredibly strong cigar that's going to overwhelm your palate, and so I think that's what gives me the 9.5 is that the pairing together was just perfect. So
I agree.
yeah,
Nice.
9.5.
No, and I don't mean to, because I don't think we covered this at all, but with that being a 2-year age San Andreas wrapper, what's the MSRP? I would put it around about $15-$16 for that blend. What's the MSRP on that cigar?
What is it, Steve? At
12-ish.
the shop, 12.
12 is MSRP.
12 to 14, depending on the size.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
mean, it's coming in now. So, to my knowledge, because we haven't gotten it
That's
since
good.
we got this one in, they're all fairly consistently priced.
Yeah.
I think they're all basically the same price across the Espiritu line. Is that correct?
Close.
They're relatively the
Yep.
same.
Okay.
But yeah, I think on the shelf right now, it's around, for the Toro, it's 13-ish.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
13-ish.
That's great.
And that's smack dab right now in the average price cigar.
Yeah, absolutely. It
say.
is. That's great.
Because I think across the board, with Altadis specifically, working with AJ, not all, like obviously the 1935. I mean, some of the more, I guess, higher end, if you call it, but you're going like the H. Upman AJs, you're going with the Trinidad AJs, you're going like they're all now in that average price. You're looking 12 to 14 on the shelf in Ohio, I think, with tobacco tax being
Correct.
in the 60 cents range now for the tobacco tax in Ohio. So I think the MSRP is 12 to 14, maybe slightly less on some blends, but anything coming out of AJ for your average, everyday smokes, if you will, you're north of 10. When they first launched a couple years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, when you started working with AJ, that was part of the beauty of it, is that even AJ having two hands in it, Altadis and AJ, surprisingly, they were getting launched at like 10 or less, like 8 to 10.
$9. Yeah.
$9. Now with everything else in the market changing, we've seen a price increase just like every other industry, but this is falling right in line with a lot of those everyday smokes. I'm not saying that $10 to $15 for a lot of people is still an everyday smoke. It's an average price for a cigar right now on the shelf. So it's cool to hear that the part where you were saying, Ryan, that point of a little more age on some of the tobaccos being used in this, that they're able to keep that price where it's at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to come out with a series number 3 of a 3-part series, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got $11, $12. The third one's going to be 18. You're like, wait a second, hang on. Like, that's not really, like, you shouldn't have called it the number 3 there. Keep it consistent.
Call it something else.
You call it inflation. That's
the Trinidad Espiritu inflation. Nate, how about you?
So on the whiskey, all things considered, I'm going to give it an 8. Just on the flavor profile, 12-year, like that would knock it down a little bit, but I think $70 for this bottle, I think, is a great value. So it ups it. So I give it an 8 because I agree with Ryan. It's got some flavor to it. I think the oak, because of the 12-year, is very prominent because they cut it down to 100 proof, which I don't mind. I think you lose quite a bit of the flavor that was there if this was at a higher proof. So some of those sweeter notes that we were talking, like the vanilla, the brown sugar, stuff like that, those are a little bit more subtle in this bottle. But it being a 12-year for $70, like a lot of times we talk about in the industry, in the spirit side, like there's a lot of whiskeys, you almost look at like $8 to $10 per year that it's aged is kind of what we kind of talk about. So this coming in at 70 for a 12-year, I think it provides significant value for this bottle. I just wish some of those flavors that are subtle were more prominent. But I think for the money, this is a really good bottle. Yeah. As far as the cigar, I was pleasantly surprised the first time I had this cigar because I do like the number 1. As Steve said, medium body, right down the middle, good flavor to it. Good kind of daily smoke just on the flavor profile. The number 2 with that Brazilian, that had quite a bit more kick to it. Had a lot more spice. Had a lot more oomph to it. Like that was a great smoke, especially if you're someone who likes fuller bodied cigars. This one, strength wise, it's right between the two. It's like medium full. But it's got kind of the smoothness of the number 1 with some of the body of the number 2, but that extra age, that 2-year age, the double fermentation that Josh talked about on that wrapper kind of smooths it out. And I said it earlier, like this is a really smooth Mexican San Andreas. This doesn't have the bite that I get from a lot of Mexican San Andreas cigars in the past. So I think I think it depends on, as Josh talked about, like what you're smoking, the time, how many cigars you smoking, where does it fall in line? Like if I was smoking the entire series, like this would obviously be the second one I would smoke. So you do the number 1, then the number 3, then the number 2, just based on the strength profile. But I think this is just more balanced for all 3 in the series. So I'll give the cigar an 8.75.
If only Jonathan Heron was listening right now.
I know. Sometimes I do that just for him.
I know. Especially,
but did you not like the 3/4 decimals?
No, anytime there's a decimal, it's a drinking game.
Drinks, yeah, he came up with that rule.
Yeah, anytime there's a decimal. Now at the pairing, I think the pairing is better than both products on their own.
Interesting.
I'm going to give the pairing a 9 because those notes I talked about on the whiskey that I don't get when I'm smoking the cigar and then go to the whiskey, I get more of those notes.
Yeah.
Like some of those sweeter notes that are more that vanilla, those all of a sudden become more that caramel and brown sugar note. They stick out, they stand out a little bit more. They're a little bit more prominent going back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think the two as a whole are better than their parts.
Yeah. See, I get what you guys are saying about the higher proof stuff. I've gotten to the point now where I look at it differently than you, Nate, on this one specifically. I like the balance of the bottle of the Knob Creek 12. I like the fact that I'm getting a lot of flavor, from the cigar world. I think it's more like the Seiko, like the middle leaves. You get some strength from it. You get a lot of the flavor. I think proofing it down to 100, which is so funny because 100, it's not like a low proof. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy some bottles that are in the 90s, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Josh was saying that people that have been doing the whiskey thing for a while, they go stronger. I think that happens in the cigar world too. You start with like mild to medium, and then all of a sudden there's a period of your, again, smoking journey, kind of like the drinking journey. It's like, yeah, I just more, and then you finally kind of calm back down. At least I have. A lot of people I've talked to, they calm back down. They're smoking more medium stuff now. They want the flavor. They don't do it. I think a lot of like the cast strength, barrel strength, that the higher 120s pushing 130s, it's too much for the flavor. It almost overpowers, at least my palate. I think it overpowers a lot of people's palate, but they like that punch in those. I think this is a great. I'm going to give the bottle, I mean, to go along with Nate's 8.75. I mean, like that rating there, because it's great. $70 isn't cheap. I think the 9 years of steel, I think
$40,
is like one of the other ones that's really hard to find. One of my favorite sippers, and you guys can say it's lame at this point, is considered now, again, labeled a 10 years Eagle Rare.
Love it.
For sub $40. So that's another one where you look at it, you're like, that's a 10-year bottle, as far as that goes. And it's $35-$40 a lot of places.
Like 45 now.
45 still. I mean,
still it's good price. It's but
closer. Yeah. So it's astonishing that you can get that. But I like the flavor. My daily sippers these days are 100-ish. I'd say. I don't reach for my bottles that are 125, 130 proof for most of the time.
No. Gotta be in the mood.
And a lot of times when I sit down to some whiskey, I'm having more than one glass. So I kind of can appreciate the lower proof that, if I'm sipping on a 130 the same amount of time as I'm sipping on 100. So
sure.
It's better for me and anyone else around me at that point, I'd say. So, and my next day. But the cigar, I'm right there. I think it is. It's 8.5 to 9. I mean, it's a good cigar. I agree with what's been said tonight. It is an AJ product. It's San Andreas, but it is different. It's more balanced than some of the blends. We didn't mention it. One of our best sellers of a similar profile, made at the same factory, is an Espinosa Murcielago. And that is something that no one brought up tonight. I'm not trying to go off the Altadis brands here, but that is a steady seller. We've got some loyal smokers, and I think that is not as balanced as this cigar.
No.
It's very good. And I mean, it sells like crazy. And I think, I smoke it. I like it. This one surprised me in a sense that it's coming from, again, you combine, like, not necessarily Altadis products that AJ's making, but that one always stands out. The Murcielago, like Mike smokes that shit every day, all day. And if we had a fifth mic, I'd love to hear, some of the comments there from people that smoke some of the AJ products that are done in a similar fashion. So I think it's done really well. So there's, to the points being made on this blend and coming from AJ, it is a little different, but it's not surprising. So I agree, but I also think that's a strength there. The pairing, I'm a 9 on the pairing, specifically cigar to whiskey, in that order. I just did it as you guys were talking. I slowed down and I took a sip of the whiskey. A lot of flavor. I get a lot of flavor. I think the flavor is kind of talked down. I get a lot of flavor from the whiskey, but if I go whiskey, sip, and almost straight to the cigar, it overpowers, in a sense, the cigar, what I'm getting. But if I go cigar first, I'm getting all the flavor, and then take a sip of the whiskey, and yes, it's maybe altered a little bit, but I still get a lot of flavor from the whiskey.
Yeah.
But if I'm going whiskey to cigar, if you're because everyone's different, right? And you don't always think about it, but if you normally take a sip first and then you go puffing on it, it's better the opposite way for me. That's where I'll give that. It's a 9, but more specifically cigar to whiskey in that order.
I agree.
So I would, if you're smoking this, you guys want to try this pairing, try both ways. But if your palate's like mine, I'm going to be grabbing the cigar first, excuse me, and then taking a sip of the whiskey.
Sure.
Yeah. And it slows down your drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're smoking more than you're drinking, so which is not a bad thing for everyone at home. or at a bar.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for bringing these.
Yeah.
I would definitely, I mean, you guys heard the ratings here, so I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. I think for me, the cigar is at least buy a 5-pack if it's offered, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not dive in with a box right away. But I'm interested to see if you guys didn't, to my knowledge, put it out yet, but because this is so new, but it would be a very cool sampler to see coming up with like 2, 2, and 2 of the 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
That would be a really, really cool sampler. And I think it would sell really well because you've got some brand consistency there. And I don't know if this is in the works or not, but that's one of those that I can sell it as a retailer saying, oh, you want some variety? It's medium to full body? Absolutely. Right here. You got 2, 2, and 2, all great blends, all made by AJ and working with Raphael and the team at Altadis. And it's just, you got medium, full, and a little bit fuller bodied.
Yeah.
And you
Great
get
idea.
a great series there. So other than that, thank you guys. Josh, thanks for the gifts, the lighters, and everything else. Obviously, continued sponsorship. And going into part 2 here, guys, if you guys are listening live, obviously stay tuned. We're going to stay streaming live. If you're listening to the audio, part 2, not sure where the conversation is going to go. It'll be a little, I think, I don't want to say serious, but we'll still be, I'm sure, joking around after another drink or two. But we did lose someone in the community here locally, in the cigar community. So we'll talk about that and kind of some of the things that surround that topic and that situation. So cheers to Bret Bennett.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right.
What are we smoking next? Where do I need to go?
All right,
Mine?
so-
Like it.
You got options.
We have options
okay?
for part 2 here.
So this is where you guys come in. You got
All right.
option 1
Mhm.
or option 2, and there's no preface to this. You guys
Do we just have to pick 1 or
choose
2? Do we get
one
to
or
know what
two.
1 and 2?
You're not gonna. You're
We're
not
still
gonna
live,
get,
but you can still.
you're not gonna get both, right? But it's gonna be the majority. Either we're going with option 1,
What's in the box?
right, that I have
What's
in
in
my
the
head,
box?
or
What's in the
option
box?
2. So
Do we get to know what the options are before we vote?
I'm going 2.
Man,
Wait,
I
is
would
it
love to give you.
are the options what's on the table?
What's in
Or-
the box? No,
no,
that's what we
no,
smoked.
no,
We
okay.
smoked that.
No.
Different sizes.
Again, you know, I always like to do something special for the second part, and so without giving too much, option 1 is extremely well aged. That Nate is going to have to do some digging to find some information on this product because I've never smoked it.
Oh,
And number 2 is also extremely well aged, but I got to have my hand in it, so
Dude.
it's a little bit special. Yeah. So we'll go with that.
Can we know what the other one
No.
is when we pick an answer?
the man already said.
Oh yeah.
I still need to know, man. Like, I mean, I need to know what the.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I can't like not know what the other option.
That's all you get.
The-
You want a
Those are
third?
tough life choices, man. That's all you poured.
The trouble is you know it's I've only brought enough for our panel.
Sure.
So I've already only brought enough.
Well,
Unfortunately,
the
I
people
did
in the
not,
audience
you know.
don't need to smoke what we're smoking.
Yeah. It's so you know it's it's definitely something special. So
If you had your hand in, I'm gonna do
I'm
that.
gonna leave it up to you guys to pick option 1 or option 2.
I mean, I'm kind of intrigued by the part where Josh goes like he doesn't even know anything about it. And,
Yeah,
like,
I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued by option 1,
Me too.
but I agree with Steve. Like option 2, Josh had a hand in. Like Josh has
I just
done
gotta know
some,
what option 1 is.
Josh has done some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You'll
Make
know,
your
you'll
decision
know.
first, and then he'll
You'll
tell you.
Do we have a coin we can flip?
Yeah, let's flip.
No, I picked 2. What do you guys think? That's just my vote.
I'm gonna do 2. I
Okay.
want to see what you're working on.
Well, so then it doesn't matter if I say 1, 2 rule.
All right,
What would you
majority,
say
so-
though?
Yeah.
The whole idea where Josh is like Nate would have to do some research. I'm like, I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Me
But
too.
like I said, Josh had a hand in number 2, so let's go with number 2.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna be so disappointed.
For option 1, These were gifted to me from Paul Waller.
Go Paul.
I have these H. Upman 1844 2000s.
shit.
That's a lot of yellow cellophane.
Oh,
There.
That
shit.
is super yellow, huh?
I don't
It's
think
a
I've ever-
23-year-old cigar.
Yeah, I do believe. I think that it's got quite a bit of age,
That's
somewhere, more than a decade worth
Yeah.
of age.
That's so yellow, it looks like you shoved a cigar up Big Bird's ass.
Say it looked like a
So,
predominant champagne.
yeah, we went. Yeah, we
I'm
went
excited though.
real south
because,
of that one.
So this is option.
I wouldn't want to smoke it if it was up there. Go
This
ahead.
is option 2. Option 2. I'm opening this. This was my blend that I created in the Honduran factory
For
at
Romeo?
Flor de Capan. Okay, and
Does it got your name on the box?
It did.
It has the piece of paper.
It's
Go on
got
now.
Josh Bentley, but it's got my name on the band.
Dope.
Oh,
Come on.
So
Yeah,
Now I feel
that's-
guilty.
No.
No, I need it.
Don't
I
feel
need it.
guilty.
Ryan's like, nah, fuck it.
Need that. Need
Yeah.
to see what, because you have a good palate. You've always had
I
a really good
appreciate
palate,
I appreciate that.
and I feel like a lot of what I smoke currently is what I don't know when like from your Oliva days and from your you're transcending in your career. Like I feel like a lot of what you smoked is a lot of what I smoke now. Like that kind of more finesse as far as flavor, medium body, just more so about having that balance, right? So to see what you kind of came up with in a blend.
yeah, because then we can critique it right to Josh's face.
Yeah, that'll be great.
I mean, there's that too.
So now, to give you the age on this.
Yeah.
So I was in La Flor de Capan, in Santa Rosa de Capan, the factory, February of 2020. So this has, still it's had quite a bit of age in the humidor,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? On this 2.5 years, on this blend. I'm gonna have to run out and get my my work phone, and I'm gonna be able to give you the actual full blend, right? The wrapper, binder, and then the 3 different fillers that I got to choose for
Well,
this particular blend.
I'm kind of glad that we went with number 2 then, because that Upman being 20 plus years old, like that's going to lose quite a bit over 20 years sitting in a humidor. Like that's
I don't know.
it's going to lose a little
Sometimes
bit.
when it looks pretty tasty too.
It does, but
Is this Ecuadorian Connecticut?
It is an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper.
Hi Tim,
That's
thanks for joining.
It's really, really light.
Yeah. Yep.
Really light.
Yep.
Very good.
So,
Tim Dodge says, hey, the high rollers are in the garage.
Hey, Tim Dodge.
Good,
Good
to see
to hear
Ryan and
from you,
Josh on the
man.
Hey,
show.
Tim. Tony's going crazy.
I know. It's going to be a rough night.
All right, let me run out and get my.
We'll run out there and get it, and then we'll get
Yeah.
started here.
Oh, man. My legs are shot.
I think about that heater season in the garage.
I'm surprised it's not heater season yet.
Yeah,
He's
you're
like, "Nah."
fine.
I think we're okay.
Yeah, that's right.
You're
I
fine.
dress for
Yeah.
I do too. I'm cozy.
it. Yeah, I've got way more layers on than Ryan's scrawny ass.
It's really personal.
I know it was personal. Put on weight. Put on weight, all right?
You putting on the weight I lost?
I don't know, man.
Thank
See
you.
you, Josh.
Yeah, I see you, Josh.
Hey, I'm gonna see tomorrow. I'm gonna get that bottle. I really enjoyed it.
That 12 year?
All right.
Ain't that good?
Yeah.
That's
See you,
good.
brother.
Should still have some.
What is this? Oh, thank you, man.
Wow.
A little something for
I'm gonna
later.
save this
Thank
for
you.
tomorrow. This is too
Oh,
good.
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like this is gonna smoke really, really good because
The only
it
company,
has a little more sharpness.
the only company that I've smoked a box press Lancero from was 1502.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That 1502 Emerald used to
I
be.
remember
one of my-
those. Those were great cigars.
Oh, it was
Those were
fantastic.
great cigars.
It
Yeah,
was.
it was that little
Yeah.
Lancero. Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
cigar.
Yeah, he did
Great
a.
cigar. That red label too was good too. I forget what that was called.
Well, you had the green, you had the emerald, the ruby, the
Oh.
black.
I didn't like the black very much.
The emerald was my favorite of those 3 core, and then
This was
And then Enrique did that XO, that 1502 XO, which was like an 18-year-old wrapper on it, and that was fucking phenomenal.
I don't know if I ever smoked that.
Oh, I did.
Nice. I like this the number 3. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to smoke that Lancero on a fresh palate, so that might be tomorrow when I get off.
Yeah,
work.
Me too. I'm gonna smoke that tomorrow as soon as I get to the shop.
I think it'll still be fairly decent when I get off from work tomorrow. No,
What's tomorrow supposed to be?
the high tomorrow is gonna be like 67.
Damn.
But it's gonna be like 55 by the time I get home.
Well, we need a. We need. It was so. Yeah. It's so,
Jesus. It's 67 when I scored. Yeah, but by the weekend it's gonna suck. Yeah, Debbie Downer over here. Yeah, it is.
I think I'm doing one more mo for the season. I'm done.
I've been saying that for 3 weeks, and I haven't done it yet. So I need to.
I'm glad you liked it, but to hear your profile, I think that's right up your alley.
He hit the nail. This has such a more.
But it says, glad the show goes on. It's a smooth 60
Yeah.
here. Tim, where are you at? Where's the
He's in
60
South
degrees right now?
Carolina.
South Carolina? What part of South Carolina, Tim?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're still on here.
Mine had a
It is, I think.
little bit of an issue. Mine had a little bit of a run on it for about an inch and a
Man, I
half.
love
on
South
it.
Carolina.
Mhm.
When Eric and I
But
went,
it
for-
did
went for
eventually
our
even
wedding,
out.
man, I
But there was a
fell in
point
love with
there where I
Charleston.
was worried
Fell in
about
love
it
with that
because
place.
at one point the bottom of the cigar was running about a half inch.
There was so much history. There was with like see all like the original
Yeah,
pages and
well,
everything from the 1600s.
Yeah, so
Okay.
typically when you have a cigar that's kind of burns uneven, the side that's burning a little slower, you
This
want to
is
have on
near
top
Augusta.
because that heat's going to come up
West
and
side.
around.
Oh, very cool.
Mine, like you could actually see in mine where the tobacco was packed lighter, just the way it settled. It was packed lighter on one
Mhm.
side, and that's what was causing the uneven burn.
Yeah, mine, the construction is just right.
Perfect.
I've seen you post this before.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys ready?
Ready. Ready.
Yep.
All right, where are we at here?
I don't know. I took so many.
It's not mine. You get a lighter, and
Mine's the only one that doesn't have butane in it.
all right, we're at 135. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 293, part 2, Beyond the BS. And we are still in the garage. It is getting colder. We'll be heating up the garage a little bit more going forward.
We had the heater on last week because it was in the 30s.
It was colder last week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so wherever you guys
You
are
just
at.
put it inside?
Huh?
Did you just put it inside or?
No, it's the propane tanks I use out back. I grilled on Monday.
Ah.
Come on. It's Monday. You got to grill a steak. But yeah, we got Josh Bentley with Altadis USA here, back in the garage after a long time. We got Ryan Newman back in the garage. If you guys are in the Columbus area, Ryan, you probably know Ryan Newman if you're in the cigar community. But he is the GM of Royale Cigar Lounge. Royale? I say
Whatever.
it different, I think, literally
Tomato,
every
tomato.
time.
It's a minute to
Got an E on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, Royale. Royale Cigar Lounge.
With cheese.
On the west side of Columbus. Check out their lounge for sure. We just lit up something Josh Bentley actually had a hand in developing this blend. So part 2, we kind of go off the normal cigar and bourbon podcast. This part 2 is more topic oriented. It's more just after you've had a couple drinks, had a cigar, hanging out with people, whether you know them, right away, you just met them, or you know them, you've known them for 20 years. This is typically where we go with part 2 here. So, Josh, real quick, what are we smoking in part 2 here?
Yes, yeah. So, super excited to get to share this blend. This was something that I shared with the guys. I had my hand in creating when I had the opportunity to go to La Flor de Copan, our factory in Santa Rosa de Copan, Honduras. Shout out to Elmer and Joel, our group of maestros down there, took us through a phenomenal factory tour. and we at the beginning of the tour got to create our own blend. And so in this blend that we're smoking, that I created on the 25th of February in 2020, right before the
World went to shit.
Yeah, right before the pandemic. So
timing.
Glad you were able to make it back.
yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Came back to craziness. But what we're smoking, we have an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper.
Ooh.
I have a Honduran Criollo binder, and then 3 different leaves in the filler. 1 part Pilatico Seco Dominican.
Mhm.
Okay. 2 parts Lajero from the Yaguara, the 13 vintage in Honduras, and then 1 part Honduran Seco. So a phenomenal blend of what I thought that I put together. I got to smoke, I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 of these.
Yeah.
And then these are my last
Oh,
my
geez.
last one. So super
See,
excited to get to enjoy.
Well, I mean,
these
number
with,
1, number 2, we were still going to be
no.
smoking something, can't
Well,
get.
thank you for sharing these
Yeah,
with us.
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a big
Absolutely.
shift from the Trinidad Espiritu number
Dude, this
3
is
there.
good.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
really,
looking,
really good.
Looking forward to seeing what you guys think.
This is phenomenal. This is if I were to blend a cigar, this is somewhere around that range that I'm trying to hit as far as flavors. You got the saltiness, you got that creaminess, you got
Definitely
the
Creaminess.
saltiness.
Creamy and salty.
Man, it is rich, it's complex, but it has a little bit of body from that Lajero that you have in there. Yeah. It's got a little bit to it, but I'm telling you, these flavors are bright. They're
Yeah.
really, really bright. That's exactly what I typically look for.
Kind of reminds
That's
me a
my
little bit
flavor
of when Carfagna's had the sweet corn gelato. They had sweet corn gelato, and then they would sprinkle sea salt on top of it.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. It was like biting into an ear of corn. This is the lightest looking Sumatra
Yeah, I was
wrapper
gonna say
have
that.
ever
Yeah.
seen.
I thought it was Ecuadorian Connecticut instead of Ecuadorian Sumatra.
I wasn't going to
but-
say Connecticut. Like, I was going to think
or
like a
Corojo
light,
or something.
a Criollo or a light Habano. Because normally I get a little bit more red of a hue in a
Yeah.
Sumatra.
I think you could work on the band. I don't like it.
Well, they didn't spend a whole lot of marketing money. Josh has a much
It
smaller
looks like a
budget.
bundled cigar. Jesus Christ.
they just for note, they spelled my name wrong.
Did they really?
I did. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
looking
Yeah,
at it. I'm
they
like,
forgot the
Bentley.
name.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck?
It's a prototype. All
Yeah,
right.
they got
Calm
Joshua
down.
in there.
Settle down, everyone. It's just a prototype.
Yep.
Man,
Yeah.
I'd be bummed about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just,
Let it go off the shoulder.
that's
yeah.
right.
I appreciate you sharing. I don't know why he's giving you a hard time, man.
great.
Yeah. No.
All right, so part 2 tonight. I framed this. If I can find it here. The
So
laptop's
far
pretty
away.
far away. Yeah, I'm gonna miss it. Boom, got it. Nope, damn, that's that last week guess. There you go. Reflection and supporting the community. So, yeah. We lost someone in the local cigar community, but that reaches a lot further than just local a lot of the times. Bret Bennett, he's been a part of the cigar community in Columbus as a customer for a long time, and shopped mainly at Burning Leaf, if I'm not mistaken, for years. And
Where I got
then-
my start.
yeah, he shopped at Burning Leaf Cigars in Columbus, Ohio, and then from just the cigar side, I knew him. I didn't know him super well. I had a few conversations with him. He also supported us at the Tinderbox at Easton. He came to the Smoking 10 event.
Correct.
Surprisingly, today, when you're on your if you have an iPhone, you go to your photos, you can go to For You, and you see like just random.
Yeah, random
Yeah.
albums.
Yeah, he was in a picture from a Smoking 10 event. It was pretty crazy. But we lost Bret, and it was very sudden, and it was an act of violence, and it basically what we know so far, what I know so far, and I'm not, we don't get to the details so into it because I know there's a lot of stories, just like any other, tight knit community of people have heard different things. But the gist of it is, and what you'll find out on the news is that it was linked to some sort of a road rage type of incident on the highways here Friday evening around 5-ish p.m. And there was a shooting, and unfortunately the shooting ended up taking his life. And they have now arrested someone
and charged
with murder. It was a road rage incident that involved gunfire, and it was a shock, as you always, you see these stories all the time, sadly, all over the country. And obviously I feel like a lot more in the bigger cities, and Columbus is trying to be a big city, and this is unfortunately what comes with it, I feel like, a lot of the times. And when it kind of starts trickling through friends of friends or people in a community like this, because it is a tight-knit community in the cigar world, and it started, happening on Friday evening. Nate, you reached out to me on Saturday morning because one of the very, very regulars, if you will, reached out to you. And so for those out there, I do want to say in part 2 here, once again, if we could raise a glass to Bret and his fiance.
Yes.
And stepchildren, sisters, I believe.
Yep.
And not a ton of family, I don't think. He was early 50s. 52. But yeah, raise a glass, rest in peace. The visitation is tomorrow, and the funeral is Friday. So if you're local, we'll get into a little bit more details there. But rest in peace, Bret.
Cheers.
And he was such a regular of Burning Leaf, and then he tried his hand at a rep job in the industry.
Yeah, he was with AJ
Fernandez.
for a little bit.
That's right.
He was with AJ Fernandez when AJ Fernandez cigars did not have their consent number with the state of Ohio. So that was a rough gig for him because couldn't really sell anything while he was a rep there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, he came in, he was trying to sell his stuff, and basically he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get it done and all that stuff. So I felt bad for him in that regard. Sure. You fast forward though, Burning Leaf, the owner of Burning Leaf, was selling the business, and Bret ended up buying the business in a matter of speaking. Let's just keep it at that. He changed the name to Village Cigars. So Village Cigars is still, as of now, open, and we'll see what happens with that. But if you guys are in the Columbus area, didn't hear about it or didn't know who it was, again, 3 to 7 tomorrow. Oddly enough, Burning Leaf, now Village Cigars, is attached to a funeral home. And so 3 to 7 tomorrow. And so if you guys are listening to audio, this has already happened. But if you're listening live right now, or you listen before tomorrow, 3 to 7 at the funeral home right next door. So I assume, I'm not sure, but I assume there's going to be some people hanging out, not only paying their respects, but also maybe lighting up a cigar in the parking lot. I'm envisioning.
I guarantee you that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, tragic story. And so, Nate, I know you knew him a little bit better from working there and knowing him. Josh, I know you knew him because you've serviced this area for a long time, and Burning Leaf was a huge, I know, Oliva account for you for a while, especially with the Oliva, not Bret, but the V Double Toro. I know that was a
couple of
more boxes of Oliva.
To Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, one of Bret's best buddies.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just wanted to talk about it a little bit, and I don't want to bring everyone down listening to this, but I think there's some conversation to be had about that. Not only, supporting the community and whether or not you know someone very well. I think too often people are more concerned about things they read about in the news, strangers, celebrities, different countries. And you see all these social media posts about, these acts of violence, and especially in the last 5 years, especially in the last 3 years, and people are like, become national martyrs, or their causes and all this stuff. And then situations like this, I read comments on some of the news posts about this, and a lot of it's good. Most of it's good. Most of it's heartfelt. And then there's all these other people that is like, yeah, just another day in Columbus. I mean, it's like there's these kind of, it's not about the person. It's about the, situation, another thing.
Yeah.
And people get kind of
turn it a little bit more political instead of personal.
Political. They get hardened to these types of things. It's like, yeah, I'm not surprised something like that happened. And I think it's funny how when there's the people that are involved in it, it all of a sudden becomes, in this day and age, it's about not them or what the loss is. It's about a bigger issue. And sometimes it's already fueled by the opinion of the situation and how often it happens. Or, you start throwing in things like, race and different backgrounds or nationalities. And it all of a sudden you lose the focus of the fact that someone was fucking killed.
Yeah.
And it was not needed. And we don't know the whole story. We weren't there. You hear the stories, but there's a lot to kind of unpack there. I feel like not only, and I want to start with obviously the cigar community and the support and being involved in whatever the community you want to be involved in, whether it be your neighborhood, whether it be a church, or whether it be your kids lives and schools and all that stuff. But this type of insensitivity and hardened attitude about some of this stuff, almost being desensitized to what the actual tragedies are. I feel like we can talk about that. I feel like we can talk about the violence part of it and how common that is. But I think there's a lot to unpack. So, I mean, I'll start, Nate. I think, Nate, you knew Bret probably better than anyone, and just how you found out and what you've heard so far and how, and again, I'm not trying to necessarily, for those listening, I don't want to turn you guys off, but I mean, this is real life. And I think that this is something that, hearing that kind of story, when you read the next news story, because there's going to be the next story, the next news alert that, there's shooting, there's a, body found, there's all of these acts of violence that you just get the alert. And, I'm just as guilty as a lot of people. If I don't know the person, I look at the stories and I shake my head. I'm like, what the hell? And that's about where it goes. I go about my day.
Yeah. You're desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got my start working at Burning Leaf Cigars back in 2012. And I was working there part-time. There was a few other staff members. Within a year, 2 of those staff members were gone. And so it was basically just me and the general manager working there to cover every single shift, the 6 days that shop was open. I was putting in like 27 to 30 hours a week on top of my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I was closing the shop every night, open and close on Saturday. So Bret was one of those regulars that was there at the shop all the time. He was also one of the guys that, because there was a period of time there where Jess and I were a 1-car household and we lived in Grandview at the time. And if usually what would happen is like Jess and I would ride into OSU together. I would walk to my office downtown, and then I would actually take a CODA bus down to German Village and walk to the store. There would be some nights where Jess couldn't drive. She couldn't come pick me up. She had something else going on. Bret was one of those guys that sometimes would actually give me a ride home. So that way I didn't have to walk like 4.5 miles to our apartment. So he was a staple at the shop. He was a regular at the shop. And I was let go from that shop for reasons outside of my control. I was actually the fall guy for a different incident. And I got the call Saturday morning at 8:30. One of the regulars that was, someone else that I knew from the shop. With my schedule, I didn't get a chance to make it down to his shop all the time, but still knew a lot of guys from there. And one of them reached out to me 8:30 that morning and called me and was like, "Hey, I hope I didn't wake you up." I'm like, "Well, you did, but what's up?" And he just said, "Just want to let you know Bret's gone. He was killed in a shooting on the highway." I was like, "Are you fucking serious? Like, what the hell?" Like, again, all the questions start running through your mind.
Sure.
Like, what the hell happened? A couple hours later, got a call from another guy at the shop letting me know, because he didn't know anyone else had reached out to me. And he's like, "Yeah, there's some guys that are getting together at the shop." And, I'm very much a routine guy. Like, I have a pattern, set my alarm 2 hours before I'm supposed to be at work, make breakfast, do all the things I need to do. And he's like, yeah, we're all getting together at the shop if you want to make it down. I'm like, well, I don't know that I'll be able to before I go to work. And I told Jess what had happened. And she goes, you need to go.
Yeah.
You need to go to the shop. And I was like, all right. So I just threw on some clothes, went to the shop. Jess was going to make breakfast and coffee and all that stuff that I normally get up for. And went to the shop. And as soon as I walk in, there's the regulars that, I haven't been at that cigar shop since I think when I last worked there was 2015. Maybe 2016. 2016 was the last time I was at the cigar shop as an employee. So I'd been there a couple times since Bret had owned it. But just with my schedule, not something I visited regularly, but still knew all the guys. And so walking into that shop and, seeing all those guys, all of a sudden those guys became emotional, as did I, because it just brought back memories of when we used to hang out in the shop. Back then, that shop on Saturdays closed at 6:30. And, if an Ohio State game kicked off at 7:30, 8 o'clock, I would turn off all the lights and I'm like, hey guys, if you want to hang out here, that's fine. We'll stay. We'll watch the Ohio State game because I'd rather be here smoking cigars with you guys watching the Ohio State game than sitting in my apartment. And there was a lot of emotion involved. There was obviously a lot of anger, a lot of talk going on. There was even one gentleman that I hadn't seen since my days working at that shop. He came in and he was going around the room, saying hi to everybody, shaking hands, hugging, a regular there. He didn't recognize me because it had been so many years. And all of a sudden he turned around and it took him a second. All of a sudden he realized who it was and he just broke down. Yeah. And it's never a great thing to see a grown man cry, but it was one of those things we were all, we all had a tear in our eye. One of the other guys that was there, he had told the story. Him and Bret actually grew up in the same neighborhood, and they had no idea until they were sharing cigars together at that shop. They had no idea that they grew up in the same neighborhood, and his kids actually called him uncle. Even though, let's just say they look nothing alike. Mm-hmm. That's how close knit that little community was there at the store. I mean, you're talking about a retail space, total, including the walk-in humidor, the office, the bathroom, 400 square feet. 4 chairs in the entire place. That's all you could fit. And that, because of that, that was one of the closest cigar communities I've ever been a part of, was that. And it was one of those things, even though I couldn't stay very long, I'm glad that Jess told me to go and, actually see those guys and spend time with those guys and see them again. Yeah. Bret was actually on his way back from dropping off cigars to a customer when that incident occurred. Yeah. And, it's one of those things where it almost takes a while before reality sets in. It's not that you don't believe it. It's just the emotion of it doesn't necessarily impact you right away. It's just one of those things that, after a while, all of a sudden it'll hit you. And you just think about all the times that you spent together in the shop, the car rides, all that kind of stuff.
Little things.
Yeah, all the little things. They flashed back to, a story when he was actually on the news after a break-in, after he had bought the shop and stuff like that, and the improvements he made and everything like that. It was one of those things where a lot of the guys in the shop were like, all right, where do we go from here? What happens? What do we do?
Yeah, it's interesting, when you deal with that kind of loss and it's someone like that, right, where you don't see every day. You hadn't seen in a while. I mean, your day-to-day is not affected.
No.
Honestly. It doesn't make anything easier, but it's just kind of like it's weird. It's an odd feeling because obviously I think that, when you hear something like that, especially like I was saying, when you don't know the situation, you're removed from it, but you hear a story like that, you have some emotion. And I do think that we're desensitized to a lot of that anymore. Unfortunately, it's the way of the world. I think it's always been that way. I mean, the more people you put into a smaller area, as far as like a city like that, you know what I mean? The more on top of each other we are, you're going to have more of it, right? And you're going to hear more of it these days, obviously, with the way that news is, and also just the telephone game also. But I mean, you're going to get that no matter what you're subscribing to, what news you watch and stuff like that. But I think when it becomes personal, it is interesting, Nate, hearing you talk about that, because you hadn't seen it in a while. You haven't been there. I mean, that's like a lot of funerals I feel like people go to.
I think since he had bought the place, I'd been there maybe 3 times.
Right. But again, your day-to-day hasn't changed,
No.
right? You weren't around that person very often. So it's almost as though, it's not to bring my side of it, but I mean, when I lost my dad, like at that point in my life, it wasn't like I was a kid living in the home every day with my dad. You know what I mean? It's my day-to-day life was different. It was removed from that. So when you lose that person in your life, or you hear something and it's a process no matter what it is. And I don't want to say it's easier, but it is a little bit easier in a sense that it doesn't affect your day-to-day. So your life goes on, but now you might find yourself thinking about it, or something will remind you of that story, or I feel like sometimes people feel a level of guilt that that age-old thing where it's like, I should have called them more often. I should have done more. And I think it's a natural feeling to do that. And again, this is just us spitballing. I'm not like a certified, therapist here or anything like that. But I think it's natural to go through those levels of, man, I should have done more. If he was still around, and you process that. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have gone to the shop more. I would have done, more visits, or shopped there more, or texted him more. It's, from my perspective, it's odd because I didn't know him as well, but then I see that picture show up on my phone. He was a guy that was in the local community of cigar smokers and shop owners. I'm in retail, I work for a shop, and I would just expect him to come in more, because there's a lot of people that you interact with, even like some of the people sitting here. You know what I mean? It's not like, like Josh. I've seen YouTube more. I haven't seen Josh in a long time. And it's like, if I heard a story about that with Josh, now all of a sudden it's like, I would run through those emotions. Man, like, Josh and I have had such great conversations. Like, we've grown up in the industry together in different aspects. And we've had some really like heart-to-heart conversations over the last several years. I'm not going to have that anymore. I don't think it's a selfish thing if you process it like that, but it is unfortunate that it is the funerals, the tragic things that make you think that way. And then when things are going well, it fades unless you work at it, in my opinion. That you got to remember to, call your parents. You got to remember to, if you haven't heard from someone. One thing that I'll say with this, and you guys can kind of speak, is one of the things that I have tried to do, and I'm getting better at it, if I think of a friend or I think of someone, and the last time we spoke, I haven't spoke to them in a while. Like, I've got a friend from college that lives here locally. He went through a shit ton of stuff personally. And I thought about him. I forget why I thought about him. I sent him a text and I said, hey man, just checking in, man. I haven't talked to you in a while. How are things going? He never responded. I'm not going to like continue it, but it's like, I because of situations like this, because of things like people have lost, it's those moments where you're like, man, I'm thinking about mom. We have the ability now that you don't even have to like stop your day and say, I'm going to call that person, just even a text or something. Because I feel like everyone has those moments when you think of someone you haven't talked to in a while. And not trying to point fingers because I do it too still, but you don't text them. You think about them. You don't call them. You either think, oh, they're busy or whatever it might be, or it's like, oh, I'm sure I'll run into them. And it's like, I feel as though most people have these moments where they think of someone that they haven't talked to in a while, or you see them on, like, say, social media and they're doing stuff. You can comment on it. You can text them personally. You can just reach out and, hey, glad things are going well.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it very surreal. Is the word that comes to mind. To me, the fact that this person is no longer here, right? I mean, it's just it becomes very real at that point. No matter what relation you had to them, how close that you were. The interactions that you have it in the past, it brings up all of those, like you were saying, Steve, the emotions. I had the fortune of knowing Bret, a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close with Joe there at Burning Leaf, and a big supporter at my previous role, and one of Bret's best friends. And I remember the tent event, them coming through together, both of them, and then Bret taking over the now Village Cigar, and what he did there, and my last interaction with him was at PCA this year, I don't call on him personally anymore. That's Charlie's role and his account. But I got the message. Joe texted me on Saturday. Unfortunately, my phone was in the car, my work phone, and so I didn't get it until Sunday morning. And Charlie had texted me at that point. I mean, just very surreal. I mean, it is like almost disbelief, right? That a situation like this could happen, and it is so odd because. Last week I was in my car locally after I got back from a trip, and when I don't plug my phone in, the radio comes on and it's 700 WLW, and they were talking about a situation that happened at a local county that a guy brought out a gun in a road rage incident, and they were making an example out of him and giving him the maximum penalty just for bringing out the gun, and then this stuff hits. Over the weekend. And, I reach out to a couple of reps, and I mean, just absolutely unbelievable that, a situation with a person that, you're close with, that this happens.
I actually have a story, kind of connected to what you were saying about when things like this happens, and especially such a small niche community where it gives you that time to kind of sit and reflect, even about the small things. And I got a story about Bret. A couple months ago, when at my shop at Royale, we were going through quite a bit of transition, more so than we ever have, which was leading me to be there a lot of hours, long nights, oftentimes by myself. The community is really, really strong, and I'm fortunate to be a part of something like this where the brotherhood is so strong. But about a couple months ago, Bret heard that, I don't know who he was talking to. It might have been you. It might have been someone else. I forget who he said he heard this from, but he heard that I was on the west side by myself at night, and he made it a point to close down his shop. And I'm not sure where he lived, but he drove up to my shop at closing time, 10 p.m. Didn't want anything, didn't need anything. He just said, I heard you were here by yourself, and you shouldn't be here by yourself this late. I've never really had, he's always been somebody that I knew and was very friendly with him. I mean, he was a great dude. He was hard not to like. You know what I mean? His personality was just he was just easy to get along with.
Yeah.
And then when you hear that was my last interaction with him in person, was when he came to make sure that we smoked for about 20 minutes, talked about how things were at his shop and my shop, and just had good, genuine conversation.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, you ready to leave? Let's lock it up." We locked up together. He waited for me to come outside, and we left. That was it. And when I hear the news that he was senselessly murdered, to know that person made it a point to come out to an area which at night it can be questionable.
Yeah.
To make sure that I'm good. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's the fact that I have people in our community that really genuinely care about me and made it a point to say, "Hey man, you know, are you okay? Good. So let's close up so you're not by yourself." It made me think when I heard the news, like, man, I really should have reached out and told him how much that meant to me, because I pondered on that. Even that night when I got home, I was like, man, I told my wife that. I'm like, that was really cool. That was really cool that somebody in our community took the time to do that. And oftentimes we take those things for granted. We don't always say, you know, we're so accustomed to doing these little things for people, especially within our community, that I feel like we forget to let people know how much that means to us.
Yeah.
And what they mean to us as people and as friends, even if we don't see them often. And that's where I was sitting at my shop. I think it was Saturday. And I don't know why. I had to shoot a text to Steve. And it was all brought forth because of just sitting and just thinking about, like, man, I wish I could really text Bret and let him know, like, hey man, like, that was really solid of you. I really appreciate you coming out and just making sure I was good. So, you know, I got a friend that has this clothing line, right? And it's the premise of the clothing line is called Flowers While I'm Alive. Giving people their flowers while they're still here, and not waiting until something happens. To reminisce about what they mean to you. Really, it's really important to, you know, everybody here, everybody on this panel, it has had an impact on me in some fashion, big or small. You guys all mean a lot to me. In this community, it's strong, and it shows that even when we don't have all the answers, we can lean on our community. We can support each other. And he did that. That was incredible. That meant more to me than anything, especially at the time. I mean, and I really do wish that I called him the following day and just say, hey man, you know, that was really nice of you. And I wish I would have gone to his shop and you know, just hung out with him for an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But I didn't. And it's not that it's just life. You know what I mean? Life gets hectic. Life gets busy, but we got to take the time when people are on our mind, kind of like your college friend, reach out.
Yeah.
It's not hard anymore.
It's not.
It isn't. Even a simple text. And it's important to do that. It's vital to let those that are in your, even if they're not in your, if you're thinking about them, reach out to people to let them know, like, hey man, you know, hope you're good, or, you know, just let you know, really appreciate your friendship. That was kind of the premise of the text to Steve is, thank you for giving me years of inspiration.
I appreciate the text. And I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, that's a super impactful story.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times too, you have those, the feelings that we're talking about as far as you wish you would have done something, you wish you would have reached out more. You wish you would have thank them more, reciprocated. I tell you, I think the pay it forward type mentality is very applicable to this type of when you experience like a loss, or you hear that, someone you used to know, or someone like you said, my college friend. It's like, I'm not looking, I mean, if he wants to reach back out, or if he wanted to like respond to that, but I know that he saw it at some point. That's as much as I can do sometimes, as much as any of us can do it sometime. But you hear that stuff and everything you're talking about. I think the pay it forward type of mentality really can be therapeutic, and also be the main point of it. What Bret did for you that night. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately he's no longer with us. So how do you live your life after you lose that? It's, you learn from that, like what you just said. So now, yeah, you can't reach out to that person. There's a lot of people in your life that you could reach out to, or offer the same type of kindness, and have that, serve as a hopefully daily, but, as a reminder in general, that you can share that experience that you had with, like for you, Ryan, with Bret. Now you can share that experience and pay that forward to someone else in your life that maybe you see every day, or maybe you don't see every day, you haven't talked to in a while. And those are the people that, you learn from that. No matter who the person is, Bret or otherwise, no one's perfect, and everyone's got their flaws. And I'm sure, he, just like any of us, wasn't that person all the time, always, but he did it enough, and he did it at least that one time. And I think we've all had those people. And I know I've had people in my life that have done the same thing. And it shouldn't have to take a death, whether it be a timely death or an untimely death. But I really think that's something that we're so, again, desensitized to these situations, like an act of violence or something like that. But we can be desensitized because of, it's everyday life. I'm busy, I'm doing all that stuff. Don't let it be lost on you when something like that happens, I really do think that, I know that, Ryan, with that, you're going to pay that forward.
Absolutely.
That, a lot of the regulars at that shop are still the regulars that were there under the previous ownership. And I started there as a customer, and as a customer, that was the group of guys that taught me what the cigar community is about, because you have guys from all sorts and all different walks of life, that they all have, the same passion for cigars. But they, over the years, they become a community just within that shop. And, they would do just about anything for one another. And so, like when Bret took over that shop, Bret changed the entire inside of what that shop looks like. And he didn't do it by himself. The guys in that shop that were regulars there, they chipped in. They're like, yeah, we'll help you tear up the carpet. We'll help put new flooring in. We'll paint the walls. We'll rebuild, a new shelving system for the walk-in humidor. We'll redo the office. We'll redo the bathroom. Because you had construction guys, you had plumbers, you had electricians, you had attorneys, you had accountants. You had someone from nearly every aspect of life was a regular at that shop. So when he took that over, every single one of those guys was like, absolutely, we want to see you succeed. Like, what do you want? And they all volunteered to do that, because they knew, Bret was spending money to be able to buy the shop and also inventory for the shelves. So they're like, what do you need? Well, it'd be great if someone could help me paint the walls. Done. What day you want to do it?
Yeah.
They all chipped in. And not a single one of them expected a damn thing in return. Not even a cigar, let alone money.
Which is amazing. That shop's
But
got
that's the cigar community for the most part.
For the
most
most part, yeah,
people
sure.
in the cigar community, like, you know, Steve and I are both at Tinderbox at Easton. If Brian wanted to remodel the store, there's a bunch of guys in that store that would be like, all right, what do you want us to do? We'll help you. We'll help you knock it out. You don't have to pay us anything. We'll help you knock it out. You want to put new carpet in? You want to repaint the walls? You want to repaint the ceiling? Whatever. Like, just what do you want?
I'll tell you, on Saturday, I stopped by briefly. I wasn't even sure if the shop was going to be open. I honestly thought the shop was going to be closed.
Sure.
I went just to take some flowers and take a cigar and just leave it there. That was it. Man, when I pulled up to see how many people were there, I mean, that place was packed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, obviously the inside's packed, right? But I'm saying the parking lot, you couldn't find.
I saw you.
You couldn't.
Sure, there's like camping chairs.
Yeah, listen.
You know.
Yeah, I parked right in front of the ATM right on the side there. I felt bad. No one could have used that ATM for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long I was there. But that place was packed. To see the amount of people and the different groups of people, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
It was a really cool thing to see. And I had my share of going to Burning Leaf and Village and all that good stuff, but I wasn't embedded in that
No.
in that community like you were, Nate. But that shop is just, it's amazing to see that people were there, and obviously there was a lot of emotion going on, but it was a lot of the same. People were keeping each other's spirits high and just listening to conversations and talking to some of the guys there. Grab a cigar and just smoke one.
So to that point, so when I used to work there, I used to keep a journal that I still have of like just some of the ridiculous and hilarious things that you would hear in a cigar shop. Just some of the stories that were told that were just absolutely outlandish. I would actually write those down because someone had made the comment like, dude, we should write a book about what happens in a cigar shop. Like if you actually live streamed a security cam in a cigar shop, the shit that you would see or hear, like that's just gold. That's radio gold or podcast gold, whatever it is. Like, holy cow, the shit that you hear. And so when I was there Saturday, like you overhear someone in the parking lot that was sitting in one of the fold out chairs say something, and we're all like, what the fuck did you just say? And someone brings, hey Nate, you remember when you had that journal? I'm like, oh, I still have it. You want me to start recalling stories? Here we go. And just start telling, and everyone just starts laughing.
Yep.
Because every time you tell one of those stories, like everyone remembers that. Or the people that were there remember that story, or the people that weren't there, they're like, no, that absolutely sounds like something that person would say.
Well, sometimes reminiscing on the good old days is the remedy. You know what I mean? Sometimes just reminiscing on the good times that you had as a community. It's just a way to keep the spirits high and just keep moving forward as hard as it is at a certain time. It helps with me. You know what I mean? Anytime that I always say that the tinderbox will always have a piece of my heart. And
sure.
It's always a home to me. You know what I mean? Whenever I go there, even though I've been doing my thing going on 4 years now. And I can't believe it's 4 years, but
can't either.
You know what I mean? It's just it's
you're still 19 in my eyes sometimes.
Yeah, you feel at home with the good old days. And sometimes just reminiscing on that, it can help.
Yeah. I mean, if there was something tragic that happened to one of the regulars at Tinderbox or one of the staff at Tinderbox, we all know Ryan's going to be there. Ryan's going to be recanting stories, and Ryan's going to be involved in some of those stories.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it was super unfortunate. And not to take anything away from the situation at hand, we lost somebody earlier in the year in the Louisville market that I was extremely close to. J. Paul Tucker, who owned Oxmoor Smoke Shop for more than 2-3 decades, and was just a confidant that I had. He helped me with a lot of things, and just extremely short amount of time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, had a diagnosis, and was gone in January. And it really does hit you, in a way to where every time I'm in Louisville, it was a shop that I could go in and you'd be greeted with a hug, right? Was the mentality, that this guy had. I would bring my boss in there, and instead of a handshake, he would give a hug. And it was a lasting impression. And to drive by his exit in Oxmoor, and just to know that that's somebody that you can no longer reach out to, is just super impactful is not the word, but you don't have that opportunity anymore.
Yeah.
Right. You're not afforded that luxury anymore. And going back to our point that we're talking about, right, is give them the flowers while that they're still alive. And I'm able to text Sandy, his wife, and I was able to go to the his services. But it's just super meaningful. And the same thing with Bret, right? He touched so many people, right? And it's unfortunate that these stories come out now, right, in the aftermath of the tragedy, all right, of what happened. But it's just all the more important that we take that time to appreciate people while they're still here, and let them know how much they mean to us, how much their actions impact us in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Right. And just appreciate the people that we have, because what did you say? 52.
Yeah, he's 52 years old.
Right. And no longer here. That is just a tragedy. That's all there is to it.
Why do you guys think it is that we still don't do what we're talking about as often as we may, I don't want to say should, but could? With, once again, I brought up like the texting, and it used to be calling, you know what I mean? Shoot, when you moved away too, like when you moved away from family or friends, you relocate. I don't want to say it was not that long ago, but in my mind, it was not that long ago where, you had to call between like whatever it was, after 7 p.m. so you wouldn't get long distance charges. Or you had to get, like when I was in college, what do I want for, like Christmas, prepaid calling cards.
Oh yeah.
It's just, you think about, that's okay. That was all right 20 years ago. Fine, whatever, I can reflect on the fact that now I'm on the other side of 40, but that's not here or there. All right. But damn. I think that, shut up.
Damn.
Fuck off. I look at this, and again, not to make
I'll join you next month.
Yeah, right. That's right. You are. That's right. But if we have all this stuff, and there's so much stigma around technology and how it can be bad, and like everyone's on their phones, and which is crazy to me when you think about what we're talking about. And there is this, everyone's on their phones for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Whether it be social media, or they're just watching TikTok or whatever it might be. And we have everyone on the table right here in the garage. Those three that are left in the audience, they're all on their phones, I think, viewing this or doing other things. We all have our phones laid out right now on the table. Josh, you've got 2 phones laid out because you got a work phone and personal phone. And
Hollywood.
And you got Mike. No, I like that. He's texting a few people just based on what we're saying on here. But you look at the stigma around even like social media, and you're like, I've heard people like, I don't know why everyone posts all this stuff. And it's like, you are literally right now able to create your own impact that people can look back on. You can document your life in stories. we have technology that will make it so much easier. Like, again, I get Facebook memories. We stream on Facebook Live here. Facebook memories that go back to, I think I joined Facebook, I don't know, it was like 08, 09, maybe 10. And, I've got Facebook memories coming up from like 2011. And it was even like stuff like, it's like, remember when Facebook, it's not like, it was like Steve Crane is, and it's like,
and then you would finish it off. Yes. Yes.
And there was that social media, thing where so many people, especially like older people, be like, I don't know why, like people are taking pictures of their food. I don't get that. And it's like, those are like the trivial things, but it's like to document some like.
And now Steve posts picture of every steak and wine Monday.
That's I do.
But that's also,
and I'm not making it about me, but like if those pictures stop showing up, people are going to ask questions.
Well, so
I got to be honest. There was a time there where the walks I was doing after a tough time in my life. There was, and that like reached people, like were reaching out to me about how they started taking walks.
Old
and
man
like all
walks.
this shit. Yeah, old man walks. My focus posts, for going to the gym, and like I literally stopped doing it. I don't do it as often.
I was gonna say I don't see that anymore.
I still do it.
I
don't do it every time. And I had people be like, "Are you not working out anymore?" And other people are looking at it like, "Well, I don't know why this guy's posting all this stuff." It's not necessarily for other people, but we have that ability to do it. And it's not for everyone, right? But I mean, the fact that, we do this podcast every week, it's something like that. This is documented for better or worse, or who cares? And some people do care, but it's those things where, if we stop doing this without letting people know, they're going to think something happened.
Yeah.
It's super trivial. And again, I'm
the
using it
shit
as an
we-
example where it's like, if we were to stop doing this, I'm not saying like, oh man, I should have watched more episodes. I'm saying it's going to be like, man, I had an opportunity to, like, I can't believe so-and-so is gone. And I should have reached out more. Maybe I should document more. Maybe I should put my own scrapbook. Cause I've been to funerals and it's always before now, I don't know as much, but remember like where there's like pictures of their life.
Yeah.
And then there's others, like it's like a slideshow going on with like old pictures,
old Polaroids.
We literally have the ability to, and it does take effort, but it's like we used to, you had to like take the picture and, you go on vacation, you get the disposable camera, stuff like that. And now it's like we have it all in our pocket. And I hear some people be like, yeah, I'm not taking pictures. I don't know why I got to take pictures. Like there's going to be a time where I feel like you're going to wish you could look back on some pictures and some memories. There's a balance there between being in the moment and actually wanting to say, I do want to take a picture of this so I can look back at this time, look back at the people that I'm with, and be able to just not have it in my head. Because I gotta be honest, everyone that wants to like live in the moment and like I want to experience it so I can remember, it's like you live long enough, your memory is gonna go. It's gonna happen. It's nice to have those in your pocket. And I think that other people do appreciate that. They like to experience with life getting in the way and not being able to stay in touch. If you are able to now, today, you can scroll through a feed and you know what's going on in people's lives. You feel like you're a part of it. Well, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the documentation, like documenting, it doesn't even have to be memorable moments, but like for the 10 event, right?
Those are memorable.
Those are memorable, right? But we do that every year, and it not a whole lot changes. It's always a great show. It's probably the best cigar event in the country.
Oh,
one of the
hands
best.
Down, hands down.
No questions. But the trivial part of getting a camera out, and I was obsessive about it. I was right in your face. I said, Steve, don't look at the camera. You know what I mean? Act like I'm not here. But you'll see that
with my hands.
Yeah. But you'll see that when I'm done with this, I'm gonna piece together something that
was nice.
That is that I want, because that's how I see things through my eyes, and I want to be able to create that memory. That way we all have these stellar cameras on our phones now that we can put into good use, and we can actually document things that bring back good memories. And you look back on it like, oh man, like that was a great time. I remember this about that event, or I remember this about a particular day. And to be able to do that, it's fascinating, right? But then it creates almost like an obsession, because then you can kind of, you know, go on and document every little thing about your day, like it necessarily matters, but
doesn't. I mean, I remember I don't know if anyone experienced this, but you see it in like nowadays, like the movies, like older movies. Remember when like you go over to like someone's house and they like want to show you a slideshow of their vacation? You're like, I don't want to. I don't need to look at fucking like, like
an actual photo album.
I don't need to see 80 slides of your trip to Hawaii. Like, just show me a picture. We're good. You know what I mean? I didn't take the vacation, but we still do it now. That's what we're doing on social media. Like, if you take, like when I took a vacation, like I posted pictures and like people commented, and it's still there. Like, some of it is very unnecessary. Like, people don't necessarily need to see, again, what you ate for lunch, or they don't need to see Nate and my steaks on our respect
steak
Sundays
and wine Sunday, steak
Monday.
and wine Monday.
But yeah, it's I think it's worth doing a little bit more of documenting your life for yourself and for others.
I like it.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why when Jess started doing the little card game that she has, I started incorporating that into my steak and wine Sunday posts. So, every Sunday, this card game just pulls out a card, and it's a question that's designed to generate conversation at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And the company that does this, they have ones where if it's friends, if it's spouses, there's different types of questions depending on the company at the table. We can't do the one that's for couples now that, my mother-in-law lives with us.
I wouldn't post those either.
Yeah, exactly.
At least not your answers.
yeah. And no one else would comment their answers either.
Get weird.
Maybe.
But, so now when I post that picture of steak and wine Sunday, there's now that question
I like it.
underneath. And what does that do? That generates other people like thinking about that answer. And some of them actually do comment what their answer is to that question. And it just creates a conversation, and it creates a memory. Like, it might be something that people hadn't thought of, like, oh, I know, I remember this thing that happened, 8 years ago. I haven't thought about it, in 8 years, but this happened. And it's one of those things that it kind of sparks that, and when you were talking about, the ability, yes, we have the ability to communicate with just about anybody that we want to with the device in our hands. But I think it's one of those things. Yeah, we get caught up in the social media and the scrolling. But one of the things I thought about when you were talking, Steve, was what about scrolling through our contact list? How many people would we scroll through our contact list and be like, when was the last time I talked to that person?
I did that a couple months ago.
When was the last time I saw that person? Like, who the hell are these people? I have all these contacts, but I talk to like 5 people a week. Like, who are all these people? And you're like, you'll sit there and you'll scroll through those contacts like, oh, I remember that. I remember this happened at the shop. I remember when we met up for dinner. I remember whatever it is. But we get so caught up in, our day to day that we forget about some of the good times that happened years ago.
I think it's okay to get caught up in your day to day. Obviously, you got to take care of yourself and your family and people around you. Josh, what were you going to say?
Well, I think it's interesting at what you're talking about, documenting, but it leads to a personal question of what is the legacy that you're leaving, right? And I mean, that's for all of us, and I mean it goes to Ryan. How cool would that have been, right? Because Bret left a legacy and had an impact on you in the actions that he made. How cool would that have been if you would have documented that?
Right. Yeah.
And, I mean, it's in the past. You can't do that, but nonetheless, he left a legacy, right? And that simple action of him driving to your shop, right, is part of Bret's legacy. And so that's something that we can all do moving forward is question ourselves and like, hey, what's the legacy that I'm leaving, right? What's something that I want people to remember me by should something terrible, a tragedy, take me from this world, right? How are people going to remember me?
Sure.
And I think that's something to kind of focus on and think about is man, what's the impact that I'm having, right? And this can be in the transactional reaching out, right, that we do on a daily basis, but then also in our actions, right?
Yeah, I think that there's actions you can do, in life, like what Bret did, for Ryan that evening, and kind of bringing in what we were talking about with the documenting your legacy or whatever. There is a difference between posting something because you enjoy it and you think that maybe it'll have an impact on someone, and putting it out there, or at least you, like I said, anymore, you post on, especially like Facebook, which there's a lot of positives and probably more negatives with like Facebook at this point. But seeing your Facebook memories, I mean, or just taking pictures, and now Apple, with the iPhone, and I'm sure Google's the same way, that I have random pictures show up. It's like I literally, like, there's a friend of mine, Jess, who her son has autism and is going through a very tough time. And I don't know how, I think he's about 10, 11, 12 years old now at this point, maybe 10, but he's now really, really struggling, getting some care for what he's going through at a young age. And that was another picture that showed up, was a crew game that I was at, that I had a picture of it was Jess, myself, and my friend Grant. And it was 2012, 2013. You know what I mean? Like those things, I'm glad I have them on my phone. I'm glad I have, iCloud, so that I don't necessarily, like, I can scroll back, and I don't even need to, but things pop up and those memories happen. But doing the documentation without looking for likes, which is the sickness that has been happening, obviously. It's been, well documented, talked about, and, there's all sorts of, documentaries, and there's all sorts of, I'm sure, articles about all that stuff. It's doing things just for likes is, I think, an extension of doing things like what maybe Bret did. And then, you do something nice for someone, and then all you do is talk about, hey, last night I did this. That wasn't what that was about.
Right.
I think there's a great parallel that you can do things for people, make an impact, and it's not necessarily intentional to the fact that you're going to do it. So hopefully, Bret did that for Ryan, and he's doing it just so that Ryan tells people about it, which he does now, but he didn't do it then.
Right.
It was pure. There's a sense of just
absolutely
doing things or documenting in real life on the technology that we have. You can do all this stuff for the simple fact that you want to do it for the good of the ability that what you can do. It's not necessarily, I hate it when people, there's a thing like when, I don't think it's as much right now, but in the last probably 5-10 years, where like, oh, if you're chivalrous, like you hold a door for someone and they don't say thank you. And I would hear people like being all upset that you did something nice for someone, but someone didn't say thank you. It's like, is that why you're doing it?
Yeah.
No.
It's like when
if you're doing something just to be thanked, and when someone doesn't thank you, that ruins your day. It's like, well, then stop doing nice things for people, because you don't know how the reaction is going to be. Yeah. You're doing it because you think that's what's right. It's what you want to do.
Yeah, it's a great point.
It's like the people that take videos of themselves passing out money to like homeless people or food out to homeless people. You know what I mean? It's on the extremes.
Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for that
what's
person
what's
you're
the
trying
point?
to
Are
help?
you like, what is the point of even giving this to the internet? Like, what's
are
the
you
point
doing it because you care? Or are you doing it for likes?
Right, and that's like the thing.
That's
like,
what I was talking about.
Yeah,
when
correct.
You walked it. Yeah,
and that's the thing with no, it's gone.
Okay,
That's the thing with
something else up there.
I could have put like a like, it's funny, as of recently I've been doing these like cigar TikTok videos, if you will, right? Like, and that's what I've been documenting as of recently. And you could say that there is like a bit of like it's like, I mean, I don't know why I do it. I mean, obviously I'm in the cigar industry, right? But you could say it's for, to build a brand, whatever the case may be. But I could have easily have said something like, hey, you can go check out Village Cigars, go see my boy Bret, just a little video. But it's also that stage of vulnerability, like about opening up about something that is personal. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to tell the internet that, like, my buddy Bret came by and, did this, and this for me. It's opening up that vulnerability. You know what I mean? It's usually when someone does something that's pure like that, leave it alone. But there's other ways that, that I could.
Look, that night, I can only imagine you probably told your wife what happened.
That was it. She was the only person that I told.
Fine. And you don't have to tell anyone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily have to tell someone. I would say, you want to say thank you. That is something, again, it's not just being polite. And, I'm sure you did thank Bret.
I thanked him in the moment, but I could have.
That's fine. That's kind of what I'm getting at here is that, it's, I'm not encouraging everyone to start a weekly podcast where if something's on your mind, you use part 2 of a cigar and bourbon podcast. And you're like, I'm pretty sure people are going to buy into some random guys in a garage in the Midwest. Like we even had a comment, whatever this guy was. I don't even know who he is. He said,
Timothy?
Yeah, I said something like,
or Thomas Jackson.
Bunch of chumps spreading bullshit. Like,
thanks, Thomas.
What like, are you?
Hey, thanks for the view, by the way.
Yeah, appreciate that.
It's one of those things. Like, if it makes an impact on you, that's fine. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to get out there and tell everyone about it. You have the ability to do that. You have the ability, you go back to like, again, I'm making this conversation not necessarily just about Bret, because there's a lot of aspects that you can take from how you live your life. It goes to something as, I don't want to say trivial, but not nearly the magnitude of impact. Is why are more people likely to leave a negative review or give a negative comment card than they are to give a positive review, right? Or positive feedback. You almost just take it for granted. I was in the moving and storage industry before this. We did comment cards. We had to encourage people. If you enjoyed the service, please fill out the comment card and give us all 5s. 5 was the best, right? You guys did a great job. Here's a comment card. Please do that, because that's the way that you build, the positive part of it. Those Yelp reviews, the Google reviews and stuff like that. Like I just had a very, very positive review, even mentioned me by name. And I was just like, that made me feel good. And more often than not, luckily with the shop and my previous career, like it was a high rating, but it's like, you have to actually push people to if you enjoyed it, tell people about it, because it's so easy to just, you enjoyed that moment with Bret, you enjoyed a service, you enjoyed a restaurant, you enjoyed all that stuff, and you're like, tell someone, like spread the word that something impacted you in a good way. More often than not, sadly, I feel like we still are the ones that are talking about tragic incidents like what happened with Bret. We're talking or spreading the word of, I went to a restaurant and they didn't refill my Coke on a regular basis, and I was without my Coca-Cola for 10 minutes. It's like, maybe you shouldn't, spread that word. Maybe say something in the moment. There's ways you can handle life, I feel like, in a more positive way. And you can spread the good word, and you don't have to wait until something bad happens to be like, I'm going to react to that. Or in this circumstances, something tragic happens, and that's when you spread those things,
right?
And you can be even intentional. And I'm not saying I do this necessarily, but as I'm thinking and talking and doing all this stuff, if someone does something nice to you or for you, when you maybe pay it forward, you pass along why you're paying it forward, why you're doing that.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because the other day someone did something really nice to me. You don't have to give the details or anything like that. You say, someone did something nice for me, and that's why I'm doing something nice,
right?
For you, because you take yourself almost out of the equation. You're not trying to make yourself feel good.
Right.
You're not trying to say, hey, tell him Ryan Newman did this for me. I'm not looking for that.
Yeah.
You're just saying like, someone really did something nice for me the other night. And so that's why I'm giving you an extra tip. That's why I'm giving you whatever it might be. You know what I mean? It's not for credibility for you, or you're giving yourself credit. You're literally, you're taking those. That's what it's all about. Those good moments that sadly, I feel like when you show up at a, like tomorrow, you show up at a visitation, you show up at a funeral, family member, a friend, or friend of a friend, you're there. You wait until it's maybe too late to do that. I think there is something there that you can actually pass it along, your good experiences or your good memories in the moment.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about.
Thomas Jackson, good to have you back. You're really, really kind of preaching to what we're talking about tonight.
No, I've been sharing some texts with Joe.
Nice.
Joe Young, one of the regulars at Burning Leaf Village Cigar, best friend of Bret, and he sent along.
We're very close.
His appreciation of us talking about Bret and
nice.
The such. I think it's really nice. To be able to sit back and reflect, right? Too, about the impact that people had, and I think that's a part of it, right?
Yep.
Is being able to sit back in the moment and reflect on people that have made an impact in your life.
Yeah.
Right. And too often, right, what we're talking about is these moments of reflection happen in the aftermath, right? After tragedy strikes or this person is taken away from us, and we haven't reflected on that until that moment. And that moment gives us some clarity, right, to be able to reflect on the impact that person has had. Again, the surreal word, comes to mind, and it's like, hey, if we sit back and think about the people who have impacted us, right, like you said, Ryan, right, that you text Steve, right, and it comes about on birthdays, right? That we think about the people that mean the most to us and send them a text. But it just goes a little bit further to help us think about, hey, maybe we should reach out a little bit more often and
absolutely,
tell the people around us how much impact they have on us.
Yeah,
people who knew the entire story of my time with Burning Leaf that led up to my departure from Burning Leaf, they would know that Bret was a part of that. Bret was part of the reason why I was let go from Burning Leaf. But because of where I found myself years later, I absolutely don't blame Bret for anything. It was more, the owner of Burning Leaf.
Sure.
That was the bigger issue. And so when Bret was able to take over that shop and make it his own, I did go there. I did visit him. I did talk to him. He knows why I was let go from that store. I don't know how he felt about it, but I hold no ill will towards Bret because of what happened, because I know it wasn't him. It was because of the owner before him.
Sure. And
so I still looked at Bret as a friend in the community. And so that was one of those things where it was more about overcoming differences in what happened. Like, if I wanted to, I could have held a grudge, but I know the issue wasn't with Bret. It was something out of his control. It wasn't his fault. And there was no need for me to hold a grudge against him, because I would have been the only person impacted by that. And it would have been in a negative way.
Yeah.
So when Bret took over and, renamed the shop and made it his own thing, I was still welcome there as well. Because, Bret and the other guys that were there, they were all happy to see me, and I was happy to see them as well.
Hey, I mean, you're part of the community, man. You've been a part of that community for a very, very long time, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, I feel like we let little things that when they go without speaking on them, they just build and build and build to be bigger than what they really are. When in general, life is it's too short to sweat the small stuff. You know what I mean? You look at where you ended up. You ended up at a really good place. In a really good place. And if it wasn't for certain things or certain life, events, whatever they may be, positive, negative, you could look at the LFD situation. You could look at that as a negative, right? You really could. But look at where it placed you where you are in life now. And you could, I mean, without getting into like religious or believing in a higher power, higher being, whatever the case may be, whatever you believe in, life is a journey, and from A to B, there's a lot. I mean, from A to Z, there's a lot of steps in between, right? So
about
you just
24.
about 24 steps in between. But there's a lot of life to live and to just appreciate all the little, everything along the way, but not let the small things build and build and build to where it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. When I think about Bret, I don't think about, what led up to my being let go from Burning Leaf. I think about the times of hanging out with him in the shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think about the times where he gave me a ride home, even though he lived on the other side of town.
Yeah.
He lived in Grove City. He had a house in Grove City, so you talk about when he came all the way to the west side where Royale is, he drove the opposite direction to drop me off at my apartment in Grandview.
Yeah.
That was completely the other direction from where he lived. It wasn't about that. It was about the community.
Yep.
And I think the cigar community is one of the very few communities where something like that happens.
You look out for each other. Truth be told, I should have been fired from the tinderbox like 3 times. I'm going to be dead.
I think
at least 3, maybe 5, maybe 10.
I think you were, but then
hell no.
But they then looked at
hell no.
But then they looked at the schedule and go, "Who are we going to find to take over these hours?"
It's funny because I can say it now. Like him and I have gotten into it. We have actually had altercations. I should have been fired from that place at least 5 times. But in the big picture, Brian and Steve and the whole community, just everybody has always looked out for their own. Yeah. And myself being a part of that and has never given up on anybody. That once you're, when you're a part of a community, you look out for each other. That's what we do. When you fall down, you pick your brother up. You don't let that person stray too far from that line. It's one thing about taking risks in life and, being adventurous and trying new things. But at the end of the day, when you're getting too far from, straying across, from where you need to be, it's good to have people that can keep you grounded and to keep you centered and keep you focused and make sure that you're good. It's important to have that. And, I know that if you go to Village Cigar, even though Bret's not here, you're still accepted. You're accepted in that community because you're a part of that community. No matter what happened, doesn't matter what happened in the past. That doesn't matter. You're a part of that community and you're loved in that community, just as you are in the tinderbox community. The cigar community as a whole. It's a small niche, but we all look out for each other. That's why it's such a big impact when something like this happens, because we all look out for each other. We all want to make sure that we're taking care of, the best interest of our brothers and sisters that are part of this community.
Yeah.
It's important.
Like, talking about this, one of the things that popped in my mind was, it's almost a year ago now. One of the regulars at the tinderbox was, traveling out of state with a bunch of guys and had a massive heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of guys there that were right there with him and kept them going, and were there at the hospital with him and visited and stayed with him, and contacted his family back home. Like, there's not a lot of communities out there where you would see that kind of care for one another. Like being in cigar, wine, and liquor retail. Like, if one of the bourbon hunters that shows up every Saturday at a store, all of a sudden something happens tragic in their life, I don't think there's another bourbon hunter out there that's going to sit there and help that person out and be there with that person. That's not what I see. That just from what I see, that's not what that community is about. There's a lot of selfishness in that community. The cigar community is the exact opposite. There's very little selfishness.
I think it's a smaller niche, though. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's smaller niche.
Joe said this. He said to me, he texted me, he said he heard it mentioned on Saturday at Village Cigar. He said, when you have a death in the family, you want to be with family. He said, we're all family here at Village Cigar.
Nice.
And we need to be together on that Saturday. He said there was never a thought of not being there. And so that's why I think it was good, Nate, that you were there. Right. That you stopped by, Ryan. I think it's good. It showed the family support, right?
Yeah, that's why Brian and I are going down tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nate, you want to pass that barrel bourbon here?
That's good stuff.
It's a great one. Yeah.
Oh, this is 35. Shit. We have 34 at Carvanha's.
I want to lead this into kind of the closing remarks, but I'll say this about Bret, and Thomas Jackson finally said something nice on there. I don't know who this guy is, but finally said something nice. There's a lot of communities, and I agree with you. I think that what I like about hearing about Bret, I didn't know him as well as some like Nate, you did. I didn't have the experiences. Mine were all kind of positive, right? So that's not yours weren't, but mine were like positive, kind of just like through the events that we held at Tinderbox. When he was AJ rep, he was nice. He's a nice guy. You know what I mean? But you hear about this stuff even just from this part of his life. And again, being 52, that's very young, these days to pass away. We're all fighting our own mortality. That's always the case. You want to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't helping their case to live longer, right? They're not healthy. I think that is a lesson that we can learn from all of this. Anytime you lose someone, you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think that's very important, and it's not as important to everyone. But I love hearing sometimes, like Bret, all the stuff that he had done recently. I don't even know what he did before. I don't know, and I'm not looking for the answers. Right. I don't know what he did necessarily before he was the AJ rep. That was my interaction with him. He was a guy in the cigar community, right. Nice guy. You know what I mean? Very polite, very, kind of reserved, but he was, when you wanted to have a conversation with him, you could. When he was the AJ rep, he was very personable and all that stuff. When he came to support the events, he won a lot of raffle prizes at them. And he was like, he came home with a lot of things, and I knew him as such, right? But he did whatever he did before. Then once he entered the community in my scope, right? He was the AJ rep. And then all of a sudden, he's the one that buys Burning Leaf or what, transitions to Village Cigars. Up until what was going on, he was engaged. He was living life from my vantage point. I don't know him like some of you guys do. I'm looking at it as that he was enjoying and challenging himself with things and not just skating through life, not looking for making his life better in our community of the cigar smokers. He was trying to keep an establishment that meant a lot to him. He not only kept it alive, but he started making it his own, up until the time he passed. And I'm glad we didn't go down the rabbit hole of violence and guns and all that shit. You know what I mean? I think this was a above board type conversation on this, but he was literally taking cigars to someone and doing things for other people. He was still living his passion. And again, I'm sure just like everyone else, he had struggles leading up to that moment. But I look at it as, how do we do that? Are we doing that? I mean, can you, if when you pass away, like you were saying, Josh, leaving your legacy. When I was hearing that, I was hearing like, these buildings that have like, universities and stuff, or something like dedicated, like this is the Josh Bentley library and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't think of who Josh Bentley was if I never knew him. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, the Bentley library. I'll meet you there. Something like that. It's what the building's called. But these types of things that, you see park benches that, in memory of so-and-so. And you're like, I don't know who, Ryan Newman was and why he sat on this bench. Did he sit on this bench? Like, did he, like, is this like something did for them? They dedicated a tree to someone. I don't know about all that stuff, but I think that you take the appreciation of that someone wanted to do that for the memory of it. And it goes without saying, you don't want to wait until someone's gone. You don't want to wait until you're gone. I just look at it as it's all of these feelings we talked about, all of these thoughts and how you address life. It should come back to you. I think it really does. And the people that have passed, that's what they wanted. All these stories, all these thoughts, all the people have made an impact on you. We've talked about how you can actually pay it forward. We do all that stuff, but it's living your legacy. It's paying it forward. It's treating people the way you want to be treated. It's these simple pieces of a what I want to say is a successful life, in my opinion, is you don't have to necessarily change the world. You don't have to have a library. You don't have to have a Josh Bentley library. It'd be nice to have a Josh Bentley library somewhere someday.
It's got a good ring to it.
It does. The Bentley Library. I like that. But I think that those are the things that if you're doing it just for recognition, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's very, very, it's short, like fulfilling. It's not really going to bring you fulfillment in life. So you got to figure out what makes you happy, what impact that other people have had on you that have made you a better person. And then it's time to take action. I think it's time to take action in your everyday life, that you tell the people, those are those common things you feel at these losses. You like Ryan reached out to me. I talked to my girlfriend about it. People have reached out to me because they've seen the news and stuff like that. It's you take the time that you have that is very finite, and you use that time not only to make yourself better and to enjoy your own life, but find out what it is that makes you enjoy life, and surround yourself with people that really preserve that and grow that. And then it's the strangers. That's the aspect that, we didn't really dive down into. It's the strangers that you run into, the road rage that caused whatever this happened in that circumstance. Like, what in God's name is going through someone's head that they would literally pull a gun on the road and shoot at a stranger? Don't even try to wrap your head around that. Live your life knowing that there are people out there that can do something like that and think like that. Don't try to diagnose them. Don't try to fix that. Fix your own home. Fix your own life. Don't let these things bring your day-to-day life, the time you have left. Don't let that dictate how you act. Don't, like, I've heard comments like when stuff like that happens, and even this one, it's like, well, I wasn't thinking about, I'm not a gun owner, but I'm gonna be now. It's like, all right, like, don't just, if you're good, then keep living your life, because something's gonna take you out of it. You don't have control over it most of the time. Literally almost all the time. You literally don't have control over it. So live your life the best you can, and take care of yourself, take care of the people that are important to you. And for God's sake, take a kind heart towards strangers out there.
Absolutely.
Check yourself.
Yep.
I get angry at times. I get angry that people are driving slow in front of me, and I maybe use my horn more than I should. Now, it's these little things in life, those little actions you have from the time you wake up to the time you're back home in your bed. That little journey between the time you wake up and the time you go to bed, that's what you have control over. So take control over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
You guys do your closing remarks. Those are mine.
I'll follow. A lot of this conversation has kind of been all over the place. I mean, we've touched on a lot of really, really good topics. And first off, I want to say that, we led this conversation with the passing of Bret. And he's a person that deserves to be celebrated based on the type of person who he was, the man who he was, the person who he was in our community, and his overall actions. He was a well-rounded individual, and he deserves to be celebrated. So glasses up to Bret.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. It's also caused us to think about how we are together as a community, and what we need to do for each other. And Steve, to your point, just having a kind heart to strangers, to people that you don't see every day, but they mean something to you. You have no idea where life's going to take you. I could leave out of here and something could happen to me tomorrow or tonight. I'm sorry. No. Something could happen. It could happen to me tonight, knock on wood. But
I got a wood ashtray right here. I should have done that.
Being open and being transparent with those that are around you, is important for letting people know that what their legacy is while they're still here, what they mean to you. And I've given everybody praise on this board, but Steve, you're a leader in this community.
Thank you.
For not just Columbus Cigars, but for Ohio as a whole, you are a leader in this community. You have had a huge impact on more lives than what you even know.
Appreciate that.
You deserve to be celebrated. That deserves to be celebrated. Josh, you're an industry icon. I mean, you're known nationally. You have done a lot for people, and I'm sure I've had conversations with people that have given them the strength to just carry on about their day, whatever the problems they might have thrown at you. But you have changed a lot of lives, and Nate, you're about as authentic as they come.
Ooh, that's a great way to say that.
You're about listen, Nate. Wow. When I think of you,
thanks, Steve. Sorry.
When I think of you, you're about as true to yourself as they come, and I admire that about you.
Amen.
Everybody here has things that I truly admire, and that needs to be celebrated while we're here, and not just when something happens to one of us. We're all going to go one day, but it's good to let those that around know how much you truly mean to them. And everybody here means a lot to me, even if I don't get to see you guys all that often. I get to see you a little bit more. Nate, you too. Josh, I don't get to see you as much, but you all have had a huge impact on not just my life, but many others that you'll never know. And that's an incredible thing. That's an incredible thing.
That's nice, man.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ryan. Bret, you're not here anymore, and we miss you. A lot of people miss you. Thank you for the impact that you had, while you were here, and the impact on the lives known and unknown that you've reached. And I just think it's so important to reflect personally on what I said on the legacy that we're leaving, right? That while we're here, right, the impact on the people's lives that we have, personally and not, and when we reflect on that on a day-to-day basis, we can make our day and people's day a lot better. And I think if we live leading that, in my life as a leader, I try to lead with that aspect. And I just think that the world would be a lot better place. I think that it's important to appreciate those around us and thank them for the impact that they've had on our lives. And much love.
I'm so glad that on Saturday the guys from my old shop reached out to me, because I'm still welcomed back into that community.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of those guys there that miss having me around at that shop. Miss me working. Part of it's me. When I work there, part of it's just me being around that community. I'm at another shop now where I work, but I also have a full-time gig that kind of keeps me away from there. Unlike what I used to do, but those guys reached out to me even early in the morning, and Larry was the guy that contacted me. Larry Jones,
Larry the tow
truck
guy.
Larry, tow truck Larry, tow truck Larry of Jack's Wrecker and Recovery Service. First thing that happened when I answered the phone, like, "Hey, Larry," he goes, "Hey, I hope I'm not waking you."
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, you did, but what's up?" And he told me about Bret's passing, and I was, after we talked about what had happened, I said, "Well, Larry, I'm glad you woke me up.
Yeah.
I'm glad you woke me up for that,
Yeah.
because that's something worth you waking me up for." And when I showed up at that shop Saturday morning, all the regulars that were there from when I last worked there. I haven't worked in that shop since, it was like March of 2016. So it'd been 7 years, and in the 7 years since then, I think I'd been back in that shop 3 times. And all 3 of those times were after Bret took over ownership of that shop, because I showed up there to support Bret and support that community. I wasn't going to show up there to support the previous owner. That's
all right.
That's for sure.
Stay on task here.
But it was, but that was more of a testament to the guys in that shop, not the owner of the previous. And it made me think, whenever Jess and I travel out of state and we're staying somewhere, like a couple years ago when we went to Nashville, one of the first things we did was find a cigar shop. And it wasn't just because I wanted to find a place to smoke and hang out and have a cigar. It was because I knew that if for some reason during our trip, if Jess and I ever got separated, she knew where to go to be safe and to be welcomed. Anytime Jess and I travel somewhere, we try and find a local cigar shop, because we know one way or the other, like if something happens, if we go there, one, that's a meeting place, because we're going to probably know where it is because we're going to visit there. But it speaks more to the cigar community. Like, the cigar community is the people that will welcome outsiders and bring you into the fold and make you one of their own. And, if someone showed up at a cigar shop and they were in trouble, that is one of the best communities to reach out to for when you need help.
I like that.
Because there's people from all walks of life, but they all have a caring heart, and they will absolutely look out for one another. Even if you're not a regular at that establishment, if you show up there and something's going on, you got separated from someone, or you're in need of help, those are some of the best people to seek help from, because they will absolutely help you out without any concern for their own well-being, or they don't even need to receive benefit from that other party. It's like, oh, this person needs help. I'm going to help that person. I don't care if it benefits me at all. Like, that's just what you're supposed to do. And there's not a lot of communities out there, I feel, that are like that. There are some, absolutely.
Sure.
But from what I've experienced in my time since I got into the cigar community, that has been the absolute best aspect of the cigar community and the best community to find that in.
Yeah. I mean, look at the four of us and the people in the garage that were here tonight. They're still here tonight, and everyone viewing. Yeah, that's why we're all in it. It brought us into it, and it's passion. You know, the saying of, you do something you love. You know, if that's your job, you'll never work a day in your life. I still think that's bullshit. I think you're going to work. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. But I'll also leave you guys with this, is because I've heard it before, and I think there's a lot of value to it. If you don't feel like waking up in the morning, if you're dealing with stuff, if you've had if you have a tragedy, you have a loss like this, I think the frame of mind that I really have to remind myself is someone that is on their last day, they know, or someone that has passed. Work your stuff out the best you can. I mean, it's okay to go through stuff, but keep in mind that how many people would love to have another day, to be able to experience the life that you're given. And sometimes it really does have to make you reflect, and make me reflect at times in my life, that you have an opportunity to enjoy the life that you're given, because it is very finite. And there's so many people that have gone before us, and there are people that are struggling right now, that they would absolutely give anything they could just to have your next day.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't always have to be serious. This is where we can enjoy tomorrow. If we wake up tomorrow, it's another opportunity.
Yeah.
So, guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday.
Cheers.
And
Cheers.
cheers, guys. I have to take a sip before I have to end this. Make it official. I'll see you next Wednesday. If you guys enjoyed the conversation, please share it, and keep tuning in. For those that have been listening that didn't enjoy it and been throwing comments out there, see you next Wednesday.
And Thomas Jackson, have a great night.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Cheers, brother.